Good evening. This is a meeting of the Southfield Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered as a community meeting. There are 2 opportunities for public participation during the meeting, and comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. The board will listen to comments but may not respond during the meeting. If you wish to address the board, please submit a comment card immediately. Roll call, Ashanti Bland, Board President.
Good evening, Yvette Ware Duval, Vice President.
Good evening, Leslie Love Smith Thomas, Board Secretary.
Good evening, Amani Johnson, Board Treasurer.
Good evening, Talisha Belk, Trustee.
Good evening, Braylon Boyd, Student Board Rep.
Good evening, Mantrell Goodrum, Student Board Rep.
And for the minutes, Trustee Joyce will not be attending this evening, as well as Trustee Jillian Holloway. Thank you.
Good evening, Jennifer Green, Superintendent. Joining me this evening are several members from the executive team in the audience. Taking minutes for this evening is Ms. Carolyn Foster, and our audio support is being provided by M1 Studios.
May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank
you. Public participation. If you wish to address the board regarding a school-related issue that has not yet been resolved by school administration, please submit a comment card immediately. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. As a matter of fairness, speakers with complaints against individuals are asked not to mention any persons by name. Let me repeat that for one moment. As a matter of fairness, speakers with complaints against individuals are asked not to mention any persons by name.
Concerns that we are having with our staffing company, also how we still desperately need an assistant director at the center, but I feel this is more important right now. Last week I was out sick for a few days. I came back Thursday to 4 teachers crying even before lunch, much of this having nothing to do with the infamous weeks before Christmas break. After having conversations with many of the teachers, I realized that the morale at Bussey Center is at an all-time low. Teachers are burnt out and exhausted. Many of us feel unsupported, unheard, and disregarded. We come to admin with our needs and concerns and are met with, "I'll handle it," or "it's on the list," often with no follow-through. So many of us are feeling very unsupported. At Bussey, we have schedules and routines for the children in our classroom. We do this so that the children have consistency. It lets the children know what to expect next. It makes them feel safe and in control. Staff schedules do not get the same respect. I literally heard a teacher being told that admin had scheduled a parent meeting for her at 4 o'clock without checking with the teacher if this was okay. Staff meetings have been incredibly inconsistent. We hadn't had a staff meeting in almost a month, and last Wednesday, a meeting was announced on Wednesday, 15 minutes prior to the meeting. Several teachers were unavailable, either out or in parent-teacher conferences. One class canceled a parent-teacher conference just to be in the meeting. Many were hoping to get answers as to why we had 4 less vacation days, even though the district is closed, or why an additional week was added at the end of the year. This coming after so many were already upset at the fact that we used to have 10 sick days, now we have 5. Teachers are burnt out. So what do? We get a wellness day. This wellness day that we were offered has now not become fun since becoming mandatory. You do not have a voice in participating or you risk not being paid over the break. We are required to be at Dave & Buster's Arcade from 10 to 3. I went around talking to several teachers on Friday asking for a call to action. What would make your job better? From that, I got more staff, resources and support for children and for staff, training for everyone, subs included, transparency, no more don't say anything, accountability, follow through, among other things. Bussy used to be at the top of the list. We were the place where people hoped to get a job. We had a reputation. Now, we can't even get folks with the 2-month onboarding process. Yes, 2 months. Ask any one of the new hires that aren't from a third-party staffing company. Most people can't afford to wait around for 2 months, so we're losing out on a lot of really good people. I have heard quite a few people who have filled out applications never to even get a phone call from us while receiving job offers from other centers within a week. Something needs to be done. We're going to lose out on the good staff that we already have right now. Thank you.
Whitley Jones.
Hi,
Hi, Ms. Jones, please state your address for us.
15822 Parkside, Detroit.
Thank you.
I am an early education staff member at Bussy. When I came to Bussy, I came from another staff company, and I begged for Bussy for over a year. I wanted to be a part. I didn't want to be nowhere else. It took that entire year for Elite to get me started. And once I got there, I get up every day, I put my Bussy shirt on, I put on my Bussy badge, and Elite treats us like anything off the street. And as I've been told many a time before, I don't work for Southfield, I don't work for Bussy, I work for Elite. We get 5 sick days a year. I'm a year-round employee. That means that with 4 children, I'm allowed 1 something happening. If I'm late, I'm marked down. If I ask to leave early after the kids leave for an appointment, I'm marked. We work on Fridays, kids, even on the Fridays that we don't have kids. If I miss for an appointment on a Friday, I'm hit. This is hard in today's world. I'm at work, I'm there with my kids as much as possible. I'm there when they're sick or they have situations, but I'm not allowed that. And it makes it really difficult as someone who wants to be there every day with someone else's children, that if something happens where I need to be gone, I'm not allowed that. And it's hard when every day I choose Southfield kids, but I don't get that same back from Elite.
Thank you. Aldria Maxwell. Please state your address for the record.
My address?
Yes, ma'am.
23665 Rockingham,
Thank you.
48033.
Thank you.
I do work for also Bussy, and I work for the same staffing company she works for, and I have some of the same gripes about what they allow us and what they don't allow us. I just would like to say, I love my job. I go there Monday through Sunday, Sunday through Monday, all of the days of the week. And it is taxing when you have those things going on. I love my job because I love the kids. And many of you know I've been there for 12, 13 years. So it is kind of what she said, taxing. Sorry, I'm out of breath because I was running out of parking lot. But it is taxing when you're there and you're trying to do the best, but you know you can't fall sick because I don't get off any days. And I know that a lot of people, you know, have to be off. And I have to be off, but I don't get that allowance. And it's other things that I disagree with the staffing company. And I just would like that, I guess, Southfield hires the staffing company or whatever, but I would like that paid close attention to, because that is a real issue. Because if you want quality people to work for you, you have to feel like you are quality by your supervisor / boss or the person that's in charge of you. So that is something that's very taxing to work with at Bussy. But for the most part, besides that, I really do love my job, and I love the children. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, do we have anything else for public participation? No, okay. Thank you. Board matters. Today I'm sure we have a few board matters on the floor. I have a couple. First of all, my first board matter is Go Warriors. Our vice president has on her state championship hoodie. I almost made a call to everyone else to wear theirs, but we partied on Saturday in the field house, and I wanted to, and we don't have any more available. So as she stands up and models, I want to be extremely clear that there aren't any more available, but hopefully we can work on that.
Board President, if I could just add, there are some championship shirts available on the Michigan High School Athletic Association website.
And I think there's a conversation with the chamber that we need to have also.
Okay, very
yeah.
good. But we
We do not have any.
more
Yes,
shirts.
that part, I wanted to be clear. Congratulations to Coach Marshall, the whole team, the school, the district as a whole, and this community for your support. I think it's been a wonderful 3 weeks, and I think those kids deserve to be celebrated. The second thing I want to do is congratulate our own board secretary, trustee Leslie Love Smith-Thomas, who, and correct me if I'm wrong, has been confirmed at this point, has your ceremony ordained at this point as a deaconess. Oh, they don't do the S anymore. It's like stewards and steward, okay.
Deaconess is the wife of a deacon.
Oh, come on, let me know. A deacon at her church, and I'm sure she'll tell you more about that, but I want to say congratulations from this board to you.
Thank you.
See, that's why I always ask for help. Y'all know it's late and I'm tired. Lastly, I just want to congratulate this district. Saturday went off without a hitch, and it's all due to all of your support. It was done very last minute, y'all, and y'all pulled it off, my God. So congratulations. Thanks to Mr. Jackson, thanks for the superintendent, Ms. Foster, Ms. Paulette, and all members of the EDN. And thanks for our partners in district and out of district. It was really, really a wonderful event. So I can't say enough about how grateful I am, but go Warriors and congratulations. Oh, and might I add, as we hear so many bad things anytime a kid kicks over a trash can or hits the speed bump wrong, I went to the pep rally and there was not one incident. Not only that, but, and y'all, you two, please correct me, Manny, Braden, Skilla Baby, is that his, oh, I got it right.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, we had a very popular rapper from the city come, and I could not be more proud of our kids. They were dancing, calm, they exited the building, they left the premises. So I just want you to know that for as much bad as you hear, I believe there's 5 times more good happening in this district. So kudos to all of you for just handling yourself like the scholars that you are. We appreciate you. Vice President or Board Secretary, I didn't know who had their hand up.
Thank you again, and thank you all for your support. I do also want to congratulate our Warriors, but also many of our scholars. This has been an amazing time of celebration for many of them. Several of them participated by way of the university dance program, the band, for the City of Southfield tree lighting event just last week, and it was just so amazing to see them just shine. And I just think that, as our board secretary mentioned, we hear a lot about the things that are happening that are wrong, and we don't talk enough about the things that are happening that are right. And when our scholars are out in the community and representing this district well, representing their families and the community well, and so I want to celebrate them as well for that. Also, I want to encourage anyone, if you have some time, the calendars are starting to fill up. If you're interested in dance, you can go to any of the schools you prefer within the next 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure you can and enjoy one of their dance programs, dance performances. I know I'm looking forward to being over at University on this coming Thursday, and any of the other performances that I can get to. So I just want to wish everyone a happy holidays, and thank you all for continuing to support and stand by this district. Thank you.
I do have one more, and this is truly a board matter. As some of the community are aware, we opened 2 public participations during the bond initiative in order to perhaps allow the community to ask a question in the beginning, get it answered during the meat of the meeting, and then if anyone had any follow-up, we allow public participation at the end. Trustees, we have discussed removing one of these public participation items as of 2024. And I believe that we had agreed that we were going to go forward with that, considering this was something that was revised just to allow for more information during our bond campaign initiative, which we got. So I wanted you all to consider, as of January, going back to one public participation, and we can discuss that further at our retreat. But if there is any discussion regarding that right now, by all means, I just wanted to lift it now for the community and to remind the trustees that that is an issue that we will have to discuss. Thank you.
I'll just chime in per protocol as it relates to that. Should this board, this is more for the community, should this board feel it necessary to move forward in that way, it is important for the community to know that there is a protocol by way of submitting your public comments in an email and writing to the board secretary. If that happens to be the case, I know that sometimes schedules, don't always align. Maybe you can't make it here in time to get your remarks, and you just want to make sure that your remarks are sent forward and that we know and that they're included in the meeting minutes, so that we can have that properly documented. So if this board chooses to move forward with that, that would be the another way, another avenue to make sure your voice is heard.
Thank you, Board Secretary. Moving forward, we have our report of the Student Board Representatives. We have Mantrell Goodrum representing University High School Academy, UHSA, and Braylon Boyd representing Southfield High School for the Arts and Technology, or otherwise known as Southfield A&T. Mantrell, you are up first. Good evening.
Good evening. For the month of December, here are the past, current, and future important events occurring and occurrences at University High School Academy, and there's quite a lot. UMHSA will be having a big celebration in honor of receiving College Board AP Gold Status Honor Roll, so stay tuned for updates. Congratulations to our class of 2024 students who recently admitted to Claflin University located in South Carolina. In addition to their admission, they each received monetary scholarships ranging from $3,000 to $10,000. For scholarships as a whole, as of November 30th, 2023, the total for the senior class is $600,000. Mr. Stead's leadership training class will be conducting a Toys for Tots drive from November 27th to December 18th. Students and staff are asked to submit one or more new unwrapped toys. The leadership class has a goal of collecting 225 toys to donate to families in need via the Toys for Tot program. Please help the leadership class reach its goal. The AP African American Studies classes took a field trip to the Charles H. Wright Museum November 9th. 41 students experienced the And Still We Rise exhibit, which offers a comprehensive look at the history of African American resilience. They also explored the Ruth E. Carter Afrofuturism in Costume Design, a new exhibition that features over 60 of the two-time Academy Award-winning costume designers' original designs from iconic films such as Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Malcolm X, and Do the Right Thing. Afterwards, the students enjoyed a great lunch at the Hopcat and recapped the events of the day. Even though I personally toured in Stillway Rise numerous amounts of times, the knowledge that I've obtained from the AP coursework and study helped me understand and appreciate the exhibit a little bit more. On Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, Ms. Pope's dance class performed for the City of Southfield's tree lighting ceremony. On another note, our High School National Honor Society and Student Council clubs have been collaborating with their middle school counterparts. Look for these student leaders in upcoming community service projects, school peer spirit initiatives, and fundraising efforts very soon. The Middle School Student Council hosted our UMHSA's annual Gleaners Can Food Drive. Each grade competed to bring in most cans to help feed those in need. The winners of this year's food drive was the senior class. Congratulations and thank you to all who participated to help us collect approximately 650 non-perishable food items. The UHSA Nesby Junior chapter, the National Society for Black Engineers, will be hosting December game night on Friday, December 15th. During this fundraiser for our school's chapter, students can pay $5 to stay after school and play video games and board games in the media center. They will be selling snacks during this event. Only cash will be accepted. For the month of December, for the first time in school's history, we're having a month-long Spirit Day event to capture the holiday school spirit and build school engagement from both middle school and high school. The event is called A December to Remember. Some examples of these fun days are Whoville or Crazy Hair Day, Ugly Sweater Day, and Holiday/Winter Fleece PJs Day. Various clubs and organizations at the U will be passing out treats for students who participate in these Spirit Days, so make sure to plan ahead for some of the themes. The UMHSA Student vs. Staff basketball game is also scheduled for December 22nd. Mark the date. The Winter Concert and Fine Arts Festival at the U takes place Thursday, December 14th. Make sure not to miss it. The concerts seem to get better every year. The day performance for middle and high school students will be at 1:30 p.m., and the evening performance for family, friends, and students will be at 6 p.m. Both shows are in the UMHSA auditorium, and the fee for the tickets is $5. For our Students of the Month, I'd like to say congratulations to Ismaila Morena, a UMHSA 8th grader, being recognized by Senora Gorash for taking Spanish 1 high school course level course. Ismaila is not only an inquisitive and responsible student, he is also kind, compassionate, and inclusive person with a smile that lights up the room. He is hardworking and doesn't shy away from difficult tasks. He has the necessary self-confidence to overcome any obstacle. Also, congratulations to Kylon Roger, a UHSA 9th grade, being recognized by his PAP English teacher, Ms. McKenzie, for the work and effort he is exhibiting in the classroom. Per Ms. McKenzie, his efforts this card marking has not gone unnoticed. He routinely participates in class and has added insight into our class discussions. I would also like to add that today, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students were able to see the Color Purple film early, and it was a really great experience, and the movie was very impactful. Moving forward, the school-wide activities that are occurring at the U are positive and productive for student achievement and enjoyment. Thank you all for listening and have a great holiday.
Thank you for that report. Trustees, do you have any questions? I only have one. Our invite to go see The Color Purple, was it lost in the email? No, understood. Thank you for your report, and on to Braylon and Southfield A&T.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
This past month, not even month, the past couple weeks have been extremely exciting for not only our school, but our district. If we all take a look to our right, we can see beautiful trophies that our Warriors brought home. I don't want to highlight one specific thing, but we all know what our first topic is. On 11/27, Southfield A&T varsity football team beat the Belleville Tigers after winning back-to-back state championships. This was an extremely good performance put on by our Warriors, and it was exciting to see how many families and supporters came to the game. Do not quote me, but I did hear that this was one of the most attended high school football games in the state of Michigan, which is really good for the city and everybody around here. During the past 4 weeks of football games, we've had multiple pep rallies in our school to hype up our school spirit, and I certainly believe this helped the players play the best they possibly could during this game. For those who attended Ford Field, I would like to point out I was the mascot inside that costume. I would like to apologize for that scary mascot. I did make friends with the rivalry tiger, and that picture is displayed on our recurring slideshow in our school. Seeing how Coach Marshall and the other coaches motivated our players at times of weaknesses is something I will not be able to experience again. Having this opportunity to see how everything worked behind the scenes was something that I truly took for granted, will not take for granted. And I would truly like to thank everybody who gave me the opportunity to do so. At our last board meeting, I mentioned how we had our senior pinning coming up on 11/15. I would like to tell you that this event was a major success. We had such a big turnout, and almost, if not all, the auditorium seats were full of parents, students, and guests. In all honesty, we had mixed reviews on the food. It was about a good 6 out of 10 in my opinion. But food is food in my opinion, so of course we all enjoyed it. Students had a wonderful Thanksgiving break, and we all appreciate the much-needed rest that we definitely needed. On 12/5, we had 2 field trips for our students. One was Forgotten Harvest, where we made more than 400 boxes of food for people in need. I think this was a really fun event, and this allowed for some of our students to gather community service hours, since we really don't have a lot of options for that for our senior class. The Student Council also had a field trip down to Oakland schools, where we collaborated, listened to presentations, and interacted with different schools in the county. In January, the Student Council will have a regional field trip down to Livonia, and in February, we will have our state leadership conference down in Grand Rapids, where more than 170 schools across the state of Michigan are in attendance every year. On December 22nd, the senior class is hosting our annual lip sync performance for the school. This event has become a regular in our school, and this is our way for our senior class to gain funds for more events we wish to have in the future. Our lip sync is basically where you dress up as a celebrity, actress, artist, and you put on an act for the school to see. It's really fun for students to get out their comfort zone and experience something new in the school. On December 8th, we had our Fine Arts Festival. This was amazing, my first one I've ever been to. I will definitely be at the spring one coming up, and I would like to invite you all to come. Thank you all for listening to this, and I can't express how much school spirit is flying through our air right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Braylon. And trustees, any questions or comment for our representative from Southfield A&T? I just want to say thank you for taking the initiative to get out on that field with that very large mask on.
It was very hot.
That was a last-minute push, but you took it all in stride, and we're grateful for your participation.
Thank you. It
for
was the
that.
morning of, very hot in that mask, but we made it happen.
So trustees, if there is nothing else, as per our normal point, we will offer you the opportunity to leave now. If you have homework, I'm sure it's finals. Oh, the nod was strong. So please, if you'd like to leave, by all means, and thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
As we let our student board representatives exit the building, we will prepare for the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Board President. And as they are exiting the room, I do have a few shameless plugs to put out to the community. One, Secretary Smith-Thomas mentioned all of the wonderful events happening in our district. One that I'd really like to highlight is that of our Bernie K-8 Fine and Performing Arts School. People always ask, what are educational pathways? And when we talk about how Southfield Public Schools does things differently, we really focus on the whole child. And with the elements of music production class, the students students actually have an opportunity to not only learn how to write music, how to record their own music in the music studio, and actually produce their own CDs to sell at this concert on Thursday evening. And all of the proceeds go to the students who spent the time writing, producing, writing contracts, learning how to pay taxes on it, and all of those elements that we experience in the real world. So if you're interested in seeing some of the phenomenal work happening at Bernie K-8, that concert is Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Second, but definitely not last, for all of the celebrations that we are facilitating in the community. Oh,
Who did it?
poor baby, who did it?
Who did it?
Aw. For all of the things that we're doing for our students, we are honored to do these things, but they all come with a cost. So for any who wish to donate to our Warrior celebrations, feel free to write a check to the Southfield Public Schools, put in the memo line, Warrior Celebrations, and you can forward that here to the school district at 24661 Losser Road, Southfield, Michigan, 48033. Did I capture it, Board Treasurer? All right, awesome. Okay. Having said that, now you will hear from our auditors from Plant Moran, because we want to make sure that we remain fiscally responsible. So at this time, we welcome to the podium Mr. Michael Foster, Mr. Paul Bryant, and Michael too. Michael, tell me your last name one more. Walsh. How can I forget that? Walsh, Foster, and Bryant and Associates.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to come present the results of the audit. So as some of you may recall, we were here last month, gave just a quick high-level overview of the audit results. Tonight, we're going to go into a little more detail. So I'm going to recap the items that we covered at the board meeting last month, and then Michael Walsh is going to run through some of the more quantitative, the numbers that are part of the results of the audit.
Yep.
What's that?
Technical difficulties. Okay, you can advance the screen though, so that they can start speaking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So again, qualitatively, the results of the audit. First of all, we're going to start with the basic financial statements. As we talked about last month, we issued an unmodified opinion on the basic financial statements. That is the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can place on financial statements. As part of the audit of the financial statements, we also look at, you've got two other sources of revenue where you're spending dollars that have compliance requirements. One is the 2023 Building and Site Fund. The other is the 2020 Building and Site Fund. We looked at both of those and the expenditures that occurred in both of those funds and noted no non-compliance. We also look at compliance as it relates to expenditures out of the sinking fund. Again, no non-compliance was noted as it relates to the expenditures out of the sinking fund this year. The other audit report that we issue is the single audit or the audit of the federal awards. So the district receives a number of federal grants, and we're testing though a sample of those. This year we tested the Education Stabilization Fund, the Child Nutrition Cluster, and the Title I grant. We did have one finding related to on-site monitoring in the Child Nutrition Cluster, but other than that, no question cost. And again, we're issuing an unmodified opinion as it relates to compliance with the rules and regulations that govern those grants.
That's huge. That's huge. Miss April Rogers is in the back. That's huge.
So real quick, as Mike mentioned for the reports that are here, with the federal programs, it either works or it doesn't. So to be able to walk through, there are a lot of dollars that are running through this district. A lot of compliance, oversight, reports you have to submit, making sure people sign off appropriately. To be able to go through those dollars, you should definitely pat yourself on the back to to be able to have no compliance fine, well, I shouldn't say no compliance fine, no question cost. So nothing that needs to be repaid back to the government because you spent it inappropriately.
All right.
So the last document that is part of our audit package is the report to the board. And there's 3 items we just wanted to cover there. So we're not only looking at the dollars, we're also looking at the disclosures in the financial statements. Your significant accounting policies are in note 2. We also have to look at the significant estimates. So your Southfield schools, along with all the other districts in the state, participate in the state retirement program. You get allocated a portion of those dollars based on payroll. And so we also audit to make sure those numbers are properly reflected in the financial statements for the district. And then finally, if we were to encounter any difficulties in performing the audit, we'd be required to report that to management and to the board, and we're happy to report that we did not encounter any difficulties in performing the audits this year. Any questions on that before we get into the numbers?
All right. I'll jump right into the numbers here then. And this first slide here, it looks at the general fund's balance sheet of the district as of June 30, 2023. So really looking at a point in time. And this will be under the modified accrual basis of accounting. So it's really looking at the resources that are available to use for current operations. So if you're moving left to right here, we have the district's first two funds listed there are the 2 major funds. The general fund being the main operating fund of the district. This will be the primary fund that we talk about as part of our presentation today. Also wanted to highlight the 2023 Building and Site Fund. So the district did pass a bond in November of 2022. This fund brings in the proceeds of that bond that was received by the district during the fiscal year of about $75 million. And then that'll be used on allowable proceeds or bond expenditures moving forward. That non-major funds column kind of is the remaining governmental funds. This would include your special revenue funds, such as the Food Service Fund, the Student Activities Fund, the Debt Retirement Fund that pays down some of those, the principal and interest on bonds, as well as the non-major capital projects funds, which would be the Sinking Fund, the 2020 Building and Site Fund as well. And then the final there being your total. Moving on to the next slide here. Yep.
Can I chime in for 1 second? Just because there's probably a lot of language that the community, if they're not in the finance world,
Yep.
I would like for you to explain it very plainly, because when we see liabilities, we assume that we're incurring certain costs. So
Yep.
I just wanted to ask if you could describe for the community what liabilities and deferred inflows of resources actually represents.
Yep. So on the modified accrual basis of accounting, this would be more of your expenditures that would be incurred within or any liabilities, accounts payable, things of that would be due by the district within effectively the next 2 months. And this would not include, I think more importantly, this would not include any long-term debt, any pension obligations, things of that nature. So it's more of I'd say the current due within the next couple months are flowing through that liability.
So one of the big liabilities in the general fund, in that $18 million number, is payroll related. So a majority of your contracts with your employees go from August to August. Those employees work the school year, but you're required based on their
to pay them all
contract, they
year.
get paid during the summer
Exactly.
months.
Yep.
Because the staff have done what they're required to do under their contract as of June 30th, you're required to accrue a liability for the amounts that they get paid during the summer, including the benefits and payroll taxes related to those amounts. So that makes up a big amount of the $18.8 million that's in the general fund liabilities.
And I just wanted that to be explained plainly,
Yes.
right? Because,
Those are dollars that are owed to the district staff for working over the summer.
Yep.
You have to record them at June 30. That benefits, things like that. So if anyone were to pick up any school district's financial statements,
They all
more
would
likely
have
than
that.
not, that particular line would be the largest one
Yep.
on that page under the liabilities, because the district owes their staff that are working over the summer. You have to record it by June 30.
thank you.
So the next slide here, this is a year-over-year comparison of the general fund balance, and we'll talk about on the next slide the importance of fund balance. But as we saw on the previous slide with the general fund balance or fund equity at the end of June 30, 2023, came in at about $12.2 million. And there's multiple components of what that fund equity or fund balance is. One is that assigned, or that orange bucket there, of about $3.3 million. So when the Board of Education and the district approves a budget, they do it as of June. Their first budget goes June for the following fiscal year. So in June of 2023, the district would have approved their 23-24 school year budget. And as part of that budget, they would have said, we're expecting expenditures to exceed revenue by about $3.3 million. So under accounting rules would say, well, that piece of that fund balance has to be assigned then, because you're planning on utilizing that in the next fiscal year. So you'll see that for that $3.3 million for 2023, and then the $5.3 million for 2022. So that's kind of what that assigned bucket entails. The unassigned is kind of what's left, or what hasn't been assigned for a specific purpose. So that comes in at about $8.8 million. Altogether, and we'll talk a little bit about this throughout the slide presentation, but one common metric that school districts across the state of Michigan look at is, what does that fund balance look like in terms of your total expenditure pool? And so if you take that fund balance, compare it to the total expenditures, that comes up to about 11.5%. Last year, that would have came in at about 15.7%. And we'll talk about on the next slide here. There's a couple of recommendations or considerations of what that means, and this gets into more of like the statewide averages and things to think about there. So Southfield was at 11.5%. MSBO, Michigan School Business Officials, they have a general recommendation of about 15 to 20%. The statewide average for the June 30, 2022 fiscal school year would have been at about 23%. So just a couple of metrics to compare to with where Southfield is as of June 30, 2023.
With that, you'll see the bullet point, the second from the bottom. This district and the board has always set a minimum fund balance that they want to maintain at 10% of their total expenses. And so you've exceeded that, but the board never wants to go below that. So that's one thing that they always watch in this district.
Yep, and there's just a few bullet points on why is fund equity important. Number one, I think, would be that just there's less need to borrow. So anytime you have to borrow, you're incurring interest expense. So to the extent you have fund balance to not have to borrow, you're saving the district costs from an interest expense component. And for school districts, that's especially important in September, because that September month is when the districts across the state of Michigan don't receive a state aid payment. So especially during that period, if you have fund balance to not have to borrow and incur that interest expense, that's a cost savings right there. Prevents operating within a structural deficit, allows for more cash flow flexibility and less concern there. The contingency for the unexpected is certainly something, I think, especially if we think back to what school districts faced during at the start of the pandemic, and just the uncertainty there from funding at a statewide level. Having the fund balance to withstand those tough times is especially important. And that also helps with maintaining credit ratings. So this next slide looks at revenue and expenditures by those same funds that we talked about, the general fund, the bond and sinking fund, and then those non-major funds. Really looking at almost the income statement of the school district. So for the 2023 Building and Site Fund, just quickly on that one, I mentioned the district, the bond was passed, the district received about 75 million in bond proceeds there. So you see that coming through and really getting down to the fund balance because the bond spending is, as of June 30, 2023, had only really just started. So not a ton of spending there. And you see that ending fund balance in that fund at about $74.8 million. For the general fund, we'll talk about the different components of the revenue and expenditures there. Revenue at about $104 million, expenditures at about $100.6 million, and that's where you see that reduction in fund balance to $12.2 million at the end of June 30, 2023. And then at the bottom, we talked about what that means and some of the district goals at 10% of that fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. And the district coming in at about 11.5%.
So to kind of match the numbers with what you hear or what you see the second column that says the 2023 building and site. So as you go through and more construction happens within the district, that's where you're going to see the expenses occurring and that number moving, that 75 million. So a year from now, where it shows $902,000 there, that's where you're going to see. So a lot of times people think it's hitting the general fund. You're going to look in that column right there. That's where you're spending your bond dollars. So you'll see that growing. The purpose of it is to spend it. So going forward, when you start seeing negative numbers, that's a good thing. That means you're spending down your dollars like you're supposed to. And what we do is make sure it's spent appropriately. So as you're here in construction, think about that second column right there. And then the first column with the general fund is basically your operations of the school district.
One thing I want to point out too, within when you look at the revenue and the expenditure pools, there's the state came up with this concept of it's 147C dollars to fund retirement costs of the district for the district employees. So the state kind of came out with a mechanism where they're going to pay the district X number of dollars. The district then recognizes that as revenue, and then they turn around and pay that right back to the Office of Retirement Systems and recognize an expenditure. So that, I want to mention that because that's dollars that come in from the state that effectively you're recognizing the expenditure. There's no other use to it. So that's driving your revenue and expenditure cost pool up, but you have no benefit for in terms of fund balance. So just for reference, so the district in total, that would have been about $11.4 million this year that the district received. Included in that is about $4.2 million that was a one-time deposit, so that was new this year for fiscal year 23, that the district historically hadn't received. But again, that's revenue and expenditure is the same, no impact to fund balance. But I just want to mention that because that is a significant portion or component of revenue and expenditures. So looking at the revenue pool, this shows the revenue sources that the district receives. So and looking at it from a year-over-year comparison, the largest being local source revenue at about $42.8 million. This is about $40 million of that is property tax revenue that the district receives. So that's the largest funding source at 41% of general fund revenues for the school district. The next largest is state source revenue at $39.2 million. Most of this is the foundation allowance that the district receives from the state. So that's based on the state sets a foundation allowance for each school district, and then you multiply that by effectively an enrollment calculation to determine what that foundation allowance is for Southfield schools. So that rate that the state set went from $11,471 per pupil to $11,952 per pupil from 2022 to 2023. So that's part of it is driving the increase there that you see in state source revenue. On the orange bucket there at $11.8 million, that's that federal source revenue. So as Mike mentioned, the district has to go through that single audit, that compliance audit of how they're spending their federal grants. So that's the portion of that for the general fund. In that is about $6 million specifically related to education stabilization or those ESSER funds, and I'll talk a little bit about that on another slide. And then finally, that $10 million interdistrict sources, that's money that the district receives from Oakland schools, primarily related to special ed programs.
Before we move off this, you see the 39 million that he was talking about, that's the state source. So that's the amount that you can, I used to tell districts you couldn't control that number because the state sets the foundation allowance, times the number of students. But the districts can control that by getting the parents to help get their students to school. And you will see the impact of that in a future slide that we're going to show you based upon the student population. So as the students come to school and they're counted correctly on count day, that number is going to move up or down for you. So if the students aren't here, they can't be counted, you can't receive that $39 million right there. Remember, costs are going up. So if 2 students aren't in the classroom, you still have to pay for that classroom. So again, when the district says how important it is for students to be here on count day, to participate, that's the number that they're talking about.
So this next slide just shows the breakout of general fund expenditures at a function level defined by the state. So this is really kind of looking at it at a department level view. So for 2023, general fund expenditures came in at $106.5 million. The largest component is instruction related at 58%. Most of that would be, resources being spent directly within the classroom. Support services come in at 40%. That's kind of, those indirect sources just outside the classroom is kind of the way I look at it. So ultimately, when you combine those two together, you're looking at about 98% of total expenditures, either going directly within the classroom or just outside or supporting the school district. The other percentages there for athletics, community services, generally range from anywhere from 0 to 1%. If you look at it from a year-over-year comparison, obviously the cost pool is certainly increased. There's been increases in salaries and benefits. We talked about the one-time retirement cost of about $4.2 million. So that's new to 2023. So that's increasing that cost pool as well. Even with the higher cost pool, looking at it year over year, you see those percentages of total expenditures is pretty consistent across the different functions on a year over year basis. So we mentioned those ESSER dollars or those education stabilization funds. Those are dollars that's coming from the district, largely coming out of the pandemic that the government or the federal government has come up with. So this slide here is meant to show kind of as of June 30, 2023, at that point in time, how much has the district been awarded, how much has it spent to date. So as of June 30, 2023, the district's received or has been awarded $26.8 million. And as of June 30, 2023, they've spent for about just under $15 million to date. And this kind of shows the different buckets of these education or COVID-related grant dollars. On the left there, you can also see the kind of the time range that the district has to spend these dollars. So, the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 would be the two that have would have more dollars that the district can spend that hasn't been spent to date. As of June 30, 2023, the district does have, for ESSER 3, had until September 2023. Those dollars have been spent, and then for ESSER 3, they have until September 2024 to spend the rest of those dollars. And the district has certainly formulated a plan to spend those dollars. The one thing we wanted to point out with this slide specifically as well is these are all non-recurring funding sources. So once the district spent the rest of those dollars as of September 2024, that revenue is not coming back into the district. So the one thing we always tell our school district clients is maintaining the proper cost structure, moving out of these COVID non-recurring dollars is especially important, so you don't kind of hit that fiscal cliff when those dollars stop coming in.
So you wouldn't want to likely spend those dollars on staff that are likely, that you would plan to be recurring, because these dollars are one time and those staff may be recurring. And so if you were to spend those dollars that way, that might not always be a wise decision. So things like that you need to consider.
And the other thing we wanted to make sure we pointed out, if you look at each line, I'll look at the COVID relief fund, ESSER, you see where in the blue, that's the amount awarded with the amount actually spent by the district, and the amount spent is slightly smaller than each line item of budget. Reason for that, one of the things that the district has to do is make those dollars available to outside private educational opportunities. We don't control when they spend it or how they spend it or if they spend it at all. The only thing we can do is we're required to make it available. So a lot of those differences where it looks like we didn't spend the money that we were supposed to is because we actually allocated it appropriately. Whoever we appropriated it to outside the district didn't spend it in a timely manner. So again, the district, yes, and we can't recapture it. So once that year has passed that he mentioned, the 930, it's gone. But I wanted to make sure there's a difference. So the money that the district itself received is spent appropriately on the right programs. Outside of that, it didn't have control, and that's what the difference is. You'll see all the way down. Like the gear, 626, and the district only spent 442. They didn't underspend it and then lose the money. They gave it to someone else who did not spend those dollars. And if you were to flip to and look on the district's web page, you will see an ESSER program thing that documents what the dollars will be expected to be spent on regarding that. So anyone can go out there and look. There is a plan in place to do that.
So this slide just is and this, you'll see this in the financial statements as well, but just compares the final budget that was set by the district in June of 2023, and then compares it to the actual audit and the revenue and the expenditures that we tested as part of the audit that's included in the financial statements. So, when you look at the variance there, from a revenue and expenditure standpoint, the first thing that jumps out is some of this federal funding. So some of this federal funding is reimbursement based. When you incur the expenditure, you submit for reimbursement, and then when the cash comes in, you recognize the revenue. So about 1.8 of that, or sorry, 1.4 million of that is just the expenditure got incurred in this fiscal year. Maybe it was planned for the following fiscal year, so we incurred the revenue and the expenditure, or recognized the revenue and the expenditure as of June 30, 2023, that was not budgeted. So there's about $1.8 million that kind of explains some of the variance in both those buckets. From a revenue standpoint, I think property tax revenue came in a little bit higher at $1.6 million. And then there was some additional state funding that wasn't budgeted for about $1.8 million. So that kind of explains the variance that we see from a revenue standpoint. On the expenditure side, we talked about the timing of the federal funding and some of the expenditures there. On top of that, there was that $4.2 million that I mentioned was revenue and an expenditure for that one-time retirement supplement that the district would have received. That was not part of the original budget, so that kind of accounts for the rest of the difference from an expenditure standpoint. So those effectively kind of net out to about $1.7 million net variance, looking at it from a budget to actual standpoint. So if you're looking at a budget of roughly $100 million, about 1.7% variance there when you kind of net the two together. As Paul mentioned, with about 39% of total general fund revenue coming from the state, and a large piece of that being driven by the foundation allowance and also enrollment. We wanted to just kind of highlight the state aid membership trend for the district over the past 5 years. Over the past 5 years, you do see that downward trend in enrollment, and so you can kind of gauge what that means in terms of what state source revenue and the foundation allowance. I will say this trend is what we see across the state of Michigan for a number of reasons. Just overall declining birth rates that we see across the state. There's more competition that public schools now face from charters, online schools, especially coming out of the pandemic. Things of that nature that's kind of driving the decline. One thing I also want to point out as well is you see a larger drop from 21 to 22. In 2021, with the state knowing that districts coming out of the pandemic were largely facing pretty significant declines in enrollment. They kind of allowed you to weight your pupil, your enrollment figures more largely on pre-pandemic levels. So that went away in 2022. So that's why you see that larger drop in 2022 when compared to 2021. So just kind of wanted to point that out. But overall, with the district, even with from a 22 to 23 comparison, despite the drop in enrollment, as I mentioned, the foundation allowance by the state did go up. So ultimately, the district did receive more in state source revenue despite the drop in enrollment. But as Paul mentioned, that's set by the state. You don't really have control over that. Enrollment, there's a little bit more control. So having students in the classroom is especially important.
So again, think back to the previous pie that we were looking at the $39 million, and I mentioned that as he mentioned, the foundation allowance, they're looking at these numbers here. How many students in the district? And as you can see, your numbers unfortunately are going down, and there's reasons for that. But again, it affects that $39 million overall regarding that. And when you compare that to the higher cost of everything else, if your revenue is going down and your expenses are going up, you can kind of do the math. The math doesn't always math when you're trying to purchase things regarding that.
So the last slide, just wanted to quickly touch on, most of what we presented today, as I mentioned, is that modified accrual, kind of the more short-term focus. And that's primarily what school districts focus on when they're setting budgets and things of that nature. Just quickly wanted to touch on the financial statements also include this government-wide financial statement or statement of net position, as it's called, and that's on a full accrual basis. So that's more, I'd say, based on a commercial for-profit business, the way they would look at their balance sheet and their income statement. So this would include capital assets or fixed assets of the district, long-term debt, that pension obligation for the district's cost of or liability of participating in the MIPS or statewide plan like all school districts do. So just kind of wanted to make sure we kind of pointed out what that means. Just some quick highlights on the government from a government-wide perspective. So that net pension liability, there's a statewide program that the district employees participate in. It's multi-billion-dollar liability. That's determined every year. So the district would on a government-wide basis would recognize their share of their membership share of what that liability is. So for Southfield schools, that's about $165.2 million. The OPEB, which is the healthcare piece of that, is about $8.9 million. The district does have, with the new bond and everything, has about $105 million of bonded debt liability. And then from a fixed asset perspective, the district has about $91.6 million of fixed assets. So just wanted to quickly touch on some of the highlights of that government-wide focus.
Thank you. Board Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. My question is as it relates to the district's fund balance policy and many of the considerations you've mentioned here and outlined. Were there any trends you saw that you could make your best educated guess to suggest that there were some things we should be alarmed about as it relates to our fund balance and potentially even the policy as it exists right now?
One thing I should mention is we talked about that expenditure cost pool increasing and some of that being driven by some of the education or those ESSER funds, as well as that kind of that one-time deposit for $4.2 million. So one thing we've seen across a lot of our school districts is even if fund balance maybe increased slightly or decreased a little bit, that expenditure pool has increased. And, some of that probably will continue. Some of it, like that one-time dollars, that $4.2 million, you can almost cut off the top immediately. So if your cost pool, that expenditure bucket's increasing, that percentage is decreasing even if fund balance stays relatively consistent. So that's one thing just to consider from if you're looking at it from a current year perspective. where if, you know, depending on what your budget looks like for fiscal year '24, maybe that budget expenditures is already down a little bit. You know, looking at it that way, maybe that percentage increases a little bit. So that's, I think, one thing I'd want to point out for this current year. You have any other?
Yeah, just the other thing is when you're doing your budgeting, always questioning are things, I call them, are in the right pot. So ESSER dollars, since they're one-time dollars, what are those covering? Are those one-time expenditures, or have you now baked it into what's normal? The district, and you have to continue doing those. Are all your grants in the right buckets and not being charged to the general fund? Things like that. Those are things that, as you continue to answer those questions regarding that, just making sure things are in the right spot, because we're all guilty of, once something's in a place, we just kind of let it go, as long as it's not a problem. So continuing to question, looking at your budget regarding that, this district does do a good job of answering those questions. I've been here enough with the board to see the type of questions that you ask, so just keep asking those, I'll say, and following your gut regarding what those are, but that would probably be the easiest way to do that. As far as alarming, so right now, I think you mentioned you're at 11.5% in your budget. Your board policy is around 10%. One, I'm glad you have one. Some districts don't have one, they go with what they have. And two, every couple of years, just revisit it and ensure that you're comfortable with that number. Because a 10% prior to COVID might be a 10% differently after COVID.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is and as you mentioned, you've been around a while, so you know that many who sit on the board right now were not in place when this 10% was set. And so that was one of the reasons I raised that question, and we have a retreat coming up, and I think it would be wise of this board to just consider, just for conversation, in fact, obviously with getting all of the right information, if in fact that 10% is where we need to be, and something that we can live with here on this board. I do want to also, just with what you just mentioned, recognize the superintendent and her team as I'm looking at the expenditures. And I know it's just a 1% difference, but I'm looking at the instruction, where it went from 59% to 58%. And I think that, as you mentioned, making sure things go into the proper bucket. And I know it was an ask to make sure that when expenses and recommendations came, that we knew which fund they were coming from. And she's done a diligent job with doing that, just so that we ensure, like, okay, is this going to be an ongoing expense? Is this a one-time? Are we maximizing the dollars that are coming before us, the grant dollars? And so just want to recognize that that is something that has taken place. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Smith-Thomas. Anyone else? Hearing none. Thank you very much, guys.
Very much.
Next, you will hear from our second largest fund, and that is our 2022 capital outlay bond. Ms. Twanisha Jones-Williams and Mr. Dan Anderson will join us at the podium.
Good evening. So what we want to do is walk everyone through and just give an update as to where we are in terms of the bond funds at this point, the bond activities. Are we not working?
I think she has to work it.
Do you have to? Is it?
That's what he said.
Nope, there we go. Okay. So first, I want to walk through a little bit of the general bond overview. As if I can keep this going tonight. we go. Partially. Thank you. All right, so as previously mentioned, there was a bond vote November 8th of 2022. So that approved $345 million of capital facilities bond. I want to point out 5 key areas of that bond proposal. First is to right-size the school district to match the current enrollment. Second is a transition from the neighborhood schools to educational pathways. Third, expanding the programming and the facilities for both Southfield Arts and Technology and University K-12 Academy. Fourth, expanding the gifted and talented programming opportunities for the district. And then lastly, to expand community use of school facilities. The next slide is just a representation of the actual ballot language that was within that vote. A few additional facts about the bond. The bond will be sold in 3 series. So the first series was sold in the spring of 2023. The next 2 series, Series 2 will be sold in 2025, and Series 3 will be sold in 2028. So as was mentioned, roughly $75 million was received as part of the spring sale of the bond. The bond is going to take approximately 8 years to complete, and that is actually a reduction in time. It was proposed initially at 10 years. Part of the reason for that reduction in time is to look and to lessen the overall impact to the students, the staff, the district as a whole. So by reducing that timeline, there's a savings to the district in escalation cost of materials, construction staffing, those things that would be incurred over an additional 2 years. A few other key points that have not been mentioned is that the bond is to help improve student safety, security, to address the aging infrastructure of the district, and to increase the building efficiency. Next slide just represents the general categories that are going to be addressed throughout the bond. District-wide improvements, architectural, mechanical, and electrical. So, mechanical and electrical are the things that you don't necessarily see, but you'll feel comfort level in the heating and the cooling of the buildings, speed of your technology, et cetera, for the electrical, furnishings, fixtures and equipment, providing new furniture for students and staff, improving the safety and security throughout the district, site improvements such as upgrades to playgrounds, parking lots, et cetera, and then roofing work throughout the district. And as part of a large program such as this, we typically institute what we call a governance program. That governance, we work closely with the administration to help develop. So what that governance does is basically acts as checks and balances, if you will, for how money is spent, allocated, the controls. So as part of that, we develop a governance plan. Again, that's the checks and balances. It speaks to the contracts for professional services, construction, equipment that might be purchased. Change management process, because there will be changes that occur during the bond, and making sure that we follow what those procedures and regulations are. Limits of authority. So again, having certain limits that the administrative staff can approve, certain limits that go to the board, and making sure that we follow those items. And then the last, of course, is the invoice and the payment process, which we refer to as vendor payment approval, or VPAs. And the next slide, this just represents some of the documentation or paperwork that we use as part of the governance plan. Governance plan we presented to the board several months ago. It was a large document as well. So again, it deals with things that are state
state requirements, legal guidelines that we have to follow in terms of construction dollar and volume amounts that have to be bid out. Authority limits, again, talking about what can be approved by the superintendent, the COO, the CFO, what limits have to go up to the board. Number of contracts for professional service contractors, et cetera, and then the procedures themselves in terms of how we go about procuring those services. Next slide just represents, again, some of those check gates processes that are being documented through what we call a project management information system, or PMIS system. And what it does is it takes you through those workflows, and there's checkpoints at which responsible individuals have to sign off and check. So you can't go to the next stop or next step until that procedure has been followed. So that's what this represents. I want to just go back over a little bit, a highlight of the procurement and some of the strategy and considerations for that. So in terms of professional services, your architects, construction management teams, technology, et cetera, there's not a state requirement to bid those. So the various techniques for that have been open requests for proposals, closed requests for proposals, which would be weighted list or matrices that we've put together of numerous companies, or you could do negotiated proposals. In terms of construction, construction has to be publicly advertised and bid per the state requirements or the law, as well as the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Which is also termed FF&E, those can be purchased, though, via a consortium bid. Next is just another tool that we use, procurement matrix. This shows for a bond of this size, the number of contracts, procurement pieces that we're working with currently. What we do is use this as a tracking mechanism to document the method, the QA review, legal review, status, and note any special notes or comments. Dan, do you want to touch on just briefly the vendor list for the procurement?
Good evening, everyone. Looking at the list up there, ideally what the vendor list is, Southfield Public Schools likes to make sure that they involve small businesses, minority-owned businesses, other businesses that are not aware of these publicly bid projects. So we put a list, Bart Mallow put a list together of several vendors that we use throughout construction for all phases, whether it's K through 12, hospital work, industrial work, and provided that to Plant Moran as far as giving them an idea of the type of contractors that could be made available for this work, and also tying in their connections to the small businesses as well. Outreach program. Right. Also, we have a supplier diversity specialist team. So what they like to do is put on vendor fairs. A lot of these companies that I mentioned, whether it's a small business, a veteran-owned, woman's-owned, minority, if you will, often they don't know how to get into these projects, as it listed on her previous slide, said it has to be in for public bid, and they don't know the protocol to be involved with that. So a lot of times what we will do is provide a vendor fair and have them involved with explaining all the protocols, all the procedures on how to bid on these projects and how to obtain the qualifications to bid on these projects. We're actually doing one tomorrow, I believe, which will be an online presentation.
A really quick question, just in case somebody is watching and hearing this. Is there also a representation, I heard you say to obtain the qualifications to be considered as someone who can be certified? So you actually provide them with a liaison, so to speak, to get that certification that they might need?
I can't speak to that. The specialist will speak to it during the
Okay.
presentation. But what they do is they let them know, these are the basic qualifications, and give them an avenue as to where to go and obtain those.
Okay.
And then if they needed a liaison, yes, they follow up, the specialists follow up with that from that point.
Got it.
Thank you.
To the chair. Is there a contact, if someone is interested in this program, that they can reach out to Barton Mello?
It's a vendor fair, correct?
There is a vendor fair. It is currently posted on Barton Mallow's site.
Okay.
But I do believe Ms. Cash or Jesse may have linked it to the district's website. So this is the first vendor fair that we're doing to get one in for this year. We will also be doing a second one in March. It'll be March 6th to provide further outreach.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, what I want to do is just go over or just show a representation of the projects that are ongoing for 23-24, essentially what we're calling year one of the bond program. Just to let folks see, you know, a lot of times people are wondering what's the bond money being spent on. The district, I think, has actually done a great job at trying to make sure that there's equity across the board and that something is being done at the majority of schools. And so this is just a representation to show locations that projects have either occurred or are in process of right now. And that is for the first year.
Thank you, through the chair. I just have a question about this image right here. Do we have this on our website or anywhere for the public to see?
It will be shared with Ms. Cash, et cetera, so that it can be posted, but it's not currently up there. Part of the reason was as we were preparing, or we did a series of work sessions to reduce that bond program from 10 years to 8 years, so we had to look at the shuffle of the projects again. And so this is the first year, and then we do have years 24 through 30 in a draft form that can be shared as well. So.
Thank you.
Wait, before you switch. Yes. I also want to make sure that it's important to note, same as what TJ said, there may be multiple shuffles of the projects moving forward, so although that's factual, there may be some additions or modifications on projects that haven't yet gone out for bid, and that'll be continuous throughout the program.
Right. Thank you, Dan. One thing to note, that as we're going through the bond program, even though we set these plans out ahead of time, the team is constantly looking at this from a holistic standpoint, taking advantage when we can of pre-purchase or long lead items, et cetera, to do, to try and capture things in the current market. We also don't want to be in a situation with the dollars, if there's dollars that need to be spent by a certain time period, that you don't take advantage of. So it will be a living, breathing document as well. Again, just touching on some of the things that we've all been working on, design and programming, the Adler Elementary School renovations. There's some work going on that occurred at Kennedy, updates for ADA compliance. Eisenhower, of course, the swing space renovation, which also helps to lessen the impact to the students and staff. So it gives you a place where a school can essentially move out of their location for the year, move into Eisenhower, and Dr. Green has dubbed it as the Airbnb. They are there, and then we have that building to do the work on for the year without impacting any students or staff at that particular location. The lower right represents, again, the bidding and procurement. So as these things are being designed and programmed, there's an extensive process for getting them bid out, get the numbers in, coming to the board for award recommendations, making sure that all those contracts are in place. So these are the ones, this is just our current status for this first year. key planning activities that we've worked on. The bond schedule program, which is the 10-year to 8-year reduction, move management planning, which entails helping the district move faculty, curriculum materials, et cetera, out of the building so that the work can occur, moving them over to the new locations. All of that is ongoing. Vendor fairs, again, we have one tomorrow morning, and then there'll be another one March 6th. Construction planning and coordination, looking at logistics and what staging areas look like, impact to traffic on the school's property, how we roll out. One of the images up here is the re-roof over at Eisenhower, and just to see how you go through those various stages. These are some current progress photos. So this is current progress in Adler Elementary. It is under full construction, abatement, and renovation currently. The images on the left, there were some bleacher replacements that occurred over at A&T. And then the Bussey Bussey Center for Early Childhood Development is undergoing some chiller replacement. Dan, I don't know if you want to add anything else to any of the construction.
I think that pretty much covers it. I will say TJ's team kind of facilitated some of that bleacher change for A&T, so you could have a fabulous parade this week.
Next, the 2024 through 2030 projects as they are currently scheduled right now. So this shows the number of projects that will be ongoing throughout the remaining years. What we will continue to do is come forward and show these a year at a time so that you can see what work is slated for the upcoming year and any adjustments that have been made. And these durations that we represent design through construction. So you'll see activity starting at a location before you physically see hammers, et cetera, at that location.
Gonna back up there. As she said, design through construction. We have been hit before with using words like it will start in a specific time. And I think it's important that we highlight start is sometime the design process. So it does not mean that you'll see boots on the ground, digging, drilling, cones. It means that the process has started. So I just wanted to reiterate that, considering that when I hear something's being started, I immediately, especially when I'm having work done on my house, they tell me we're gonna start the project, right? The assumption is we'll be there, we're tearing stuff out, bringing new things in. This project, that is not what that means. It means that we're sitting down at the drawing table, and that is the start. And sometimes that is a long process, quite frankly. So I just wanted to make sure that we provide clarity when you hear design to finish.
Right.
So thank you for that, TJ.
You're welcome. Brief financial update. So we do quarterly dashboards that show an accounting of where we are in terms of bond funds that have been spent, contracts that have been awarded. So you'll see that current, say we have roughly $18.9 million in current contracts and purchase orders out. In terms of what's actual paid to date is about 3.9, and that's because work will extend for durations of time. So this is we do a quarterly update of this. We work closely with the district's financial team to do reconciliations. There's a monthly reconciliation of the expenditures with our project cost accountant group, and they work closely with Mark and Tom, Jesse Sutton, and to make sure that everything's being allocated in the proper buckets, that everything is being listed correctly. So this is, you'll see these project budgets come to you on a quarterly basis. Again, district is getting updates on a monthly basis, so comments about where things are. Again, this is just a recap of the current 2023-24 year's projects, work that has been completed to date, work that's currently underway, and then upcoming work that will be continuing throughout this year. The pie charts that you see represented on the right, the larger graph is the Series 1, and what it does is shows the allocation of that $75 million, where things are being spent. So in terms of that $75 million, for the Series 1, 59% of that is allocated to construction. In terms of your technology, furniture, fixtures, equipment, some of those upgrades, is roughly 13%. You've got some site work, et cetera. Those are the smaller pieces of pies. And then, of course, there are professional costs for the architects, construction managers, and the numerous contractors. So that represents that. We also have the smaller images of Series 2 and 3, just showing those a little bit smaller. Series 2 is roughly $115 million. Series 3 will be $155 million. We've not started any of those, but again, Series 2 will start in, those funds will be sold in 2025. Next is something we've been working closely with Ms. Cash, communication, to put things up on your website. These are some of the things that our marketing group and Alexandra Cash have been working with. So we've provided 4x6 cards, brochures. This is all information to get the word out about the bond, some of the programs that are going on, thank you banners. There are banners on social media, interactive maps giving the locations of a school. You can click on that to see the type of work that is occurring at that location. There's some FAQs, or frequently asked questions, out there to try and address questions that may have already been asked by the bond, things that we've seen asked in other bond programs. Again, the quarterly dashboards, which is something that we share and the district can communicate with the community. The website also has a bond funding meter that will track by series. So at the time that this was posted, this was through August, and it was about 2.9% of bond proceeds allocated at that time. Website updates, this is from the swing schools space over the summer. Some before pictures at Eisenhower, after photos. We'll continue to provide that for the district so that everyone can see what improvements are going on. There was a video that was created from the Eisenhower Open House. That's up on your website as well. Here's a larger version of that interactive map. There's several social media campaigns that are out. And she just left. I believe it's Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sure if you guys are on Twitter or not. But this is part of the slide deck that will be shared with the vendor fair participants tomorrow. And again, working closely with your communications team, our marketing group, Barton Mallow, Plant Moran, to get that word out. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to build a future together and make improvements.
Thank you so much. Trustees, were there any questions or discussion before we allow our bond team to have a seat?
Madam Chair. I just want to thank you all for your diligence as you work hard to keep our community involved and provide information. It is really important because of the trust that we would like to continue to build with our community, that they're able to see everything that's going on and know that we are working with transparency. So thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cash.
Anyone else? Hearing none. Thank you so much. It looks like we have almost 2 more hours on our agenda. Does anyone need a recess? I was gonna ask, so I'm looking at the flow of this meeting.
public participation, let people go?
We already have, wait on.
If we want to do the last one that's on the agenda.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before, I was gonna ask them if they need a recess, so we can move forward with all this. All right, she said they're relatively quick, so we'll move forward. Okay.
Trustees, the other reports, and audience assembled, the other reports are relatively quick. Next, we will hear from our Executive Director of Instruction, Ms. Summer Caldwell Carruthers, and she has great news to share, as have the others, but it's all good stuff, but we know it's late and they've been long.
I'm
but-
trying, I get all of your text messages, emails, voicemails, so we're trying to be considerate of, everyone's time this evening. Thank you, Ms. Summer.
Good evening, Board President, trustees, Superintendent Green, Southfield Community. I am here today to present to you the school index that just came out in mid-November, and I have amazing news for you. So this will be quick, but it will be exciting. So we received our school index scores in mid-November, and this is based on our state standardized test that we take in April through June. So that's MSTEP, SATs, PSATs, My Access test. And so the state requires, the federal government requires two things of our school district. Number one is that the accountability system to identify schools for the support, and then number two, a system of support for identified schools. And so there's three categories that you can be identified, but no school really wants to be identified in any of these categories. Let me say, no school wants to be identified in any of these categories. The first category is a CSI school, which is a comprehensive supportive and improvement school. And you will make that list if your overall school index is in the bottom 5%, or your 4-year graduation rate is 67% or less, or if you are already on the CSI list and you did not make the necessary improvement to come up off the list, so you will remain another 3 years, or if you was a ATS school and you did not make the necessary improvements, so then you will be elevated up to a CSI school. The next category is the additional targeted supported school, and you will make that list if one or more of your student subgroups falls in the bottom 25% in each component, and one of your student subgroups is in the bottom 5%. The last category is TSI, which is the targeted supported improvement school. And that's when one of your subgroups falls in the bottom 25% of the components. Last year, we had 3 TSI schools. And so the instructional team went to work. And what we did was we went to every single school, including the schools that was not identified. We dissected their data, and we created a plan. And so I am happy to announce that we have no identified schools this year from the 22-23 school year. So what's new for the school index this year? The first thing is the only new schools that will be identified in the state of Michigan is TSI schools. All CSI schools and ATS schools will carry forward from the 21-22 year. So if you were already on the list in 21-22, you remained on the list. And then growth returns for all grades 4th through 8th. Last year, elementary schools did not have growth because they only had 1 year to take the MSTEP due to COVID. And so this year, our growth returns. These are the various components that the state of Michigan really judges on. So it's student growth, student proficiency, school quality and student success, graduation rates, English learner progress, subject assessment participation. That just means that all of our students are taking, 95% of our students are taking the assessment. And then EL assessment participation, that's our English language learners. And so we have 2 schools mainly that have a huge population in English language learners. And we have to make sure that we test 95% of those students in order to get all of our points for that. as well as our school quality is broken up into 5 subcomponents. So school index can be quite confusing at times. That's why the instructional teams go to every school to go over it with the building leaders as well as the staff so that they can understand what their data is saying and how we can close some of those gaps. And so school quality, the biggest part is attendance. 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 Parents, it's very important that students are in school every single day because when they are not, it counts against us. They go right into our MyStar and see that your students are not there, and that is counted against your child's school.
So I'm gonna interrupt you for like 3 seconds.
Absolutely.
Not just at school, but on time.
That's right.
So I stand outside of one school and I count the number of students that come after the bell rings, and it's absolutely absurd. It's absurd. School starts at a specific time. Your kids it's disruptive. They're missing instruction. They're making her job harder. They're making our job harder. And most importantly, the students are missing out. Please get your kids to school on time. Please get your kids to school on time.
And every day.
This has been a public service announcement.
Thank you, Board President. The next thing that, the next component is K-8 access to art and physical education. And so all of our students do have access to arts and physical education. 3% goes towards our 11th and 12th grade advanced coursework. So that's AP classes, IB classes, CTE, dual enrollment, parents of 11th and 12th grade students. We have all of these programs in both of our high schools. If you do not know about it, please contact your building leaders so your 11th and 12th graders can take part in that, because that does count against our school if we do not have 52% of our 11th and 12th graders that's enrolled in one of these programs. And then the last 2 components is 2% of post-secondary enrollment. And so they look for our children to enroll in post-secondary schools 12 months after their graduation date. And the last one is K-8 access to librarian. And so these are the various subgroups that any school can have. Most of our schools have 2 to 3 of these subgroups. This is just a list of the targets that the state of Michigan is judging us on when they're completing the overall school index. So when they're looking at proficiency, they want to see that at least 56.31% of our students is proficient in ELA. So I'm not going to go through all of the targets, but these are the targets that is used when they are calculating our school index. And the next couple of slides is, school index is based on the school and not the district. And so the next couple of slides will show you how each individual school performed. And I'm just happy to say, I'm just really proud of each school, each building leader, each staff members, because we work really hard, and many of the schools have doubled their scores. And so that's why I'm trying to compose my excitement for their scores. So here we go. Adler Elementary, as you can see in the bottom, Adler 21-22, this is where their scores. And as you can see at the top, Adler Elementary in 22-23 has doubled their overall index. Their growth index is off the charts, 89.54 out of 100. Proficiency index doubled. School quality is almost doubled. And shout out to the testing coordinator, Ms. Chris Johnson. She makes sure that every student at Adler is tested. So, and that's one thing, just for the testing coordinators, that's an additional duty on top of their teaching duties. And so they have to not only make sure that every student in their building is tested, they have to make sure, they have to know all of the rules. If something goes wrong, they have to know how to execute, how to get in contact with me, and how to go into the system and fix whatever the issues are. And so the testing coordinators work extremely hard in every single building. So I am going to highlight every single testing coordinator at every single school. McIntyre as well. As you can see, they have progressed significantly. And kudos to Ms. Angela Twist, who's the testing coordinator at McIntyre Elementary. Stevenson, Stevenson has doubled almost every single category, and as you can see, they have 100 points in their growth index, which is amazing. And Ms. Charnay Oden is the testing coordinator under Ms. Principal Hickman at Stevenson Elementary. Vandenberg Elementary has one of the highest overall index of our elementary schools. They have done a significant job in their overall index, their growth index, their proficiency, everything across the board. And their testing coordinators was Ms. Winston and Ms. Littles last year. Absolutely, they all deserve a clap. Bernie K-8. And the K-8 schools is a little bit more difficult because they have more tests to take. They have elementary and they have middle school. Elementary takes M-STEP and My Access, as well as the middle schoolers takes PSAT-8. And so that testing coordinator has to be familiar with all of the tests, and each test have various rules that they have to comply with. So great job to Ms. Debbie Daniels and Mr. Eric Mans under the leadership of Principal Hill and AP Baldwin. Levy Middle School, as you can see, they have progressed as well, and they're under the leadership of Principal Jackson and AP Miller, and their testing coordinators are Ms. Kathy Boger. Ms. Kathy Boger is one of my more senior testing coordinators. She really helps me a lot and helped the other testing coordinators to make sure that we're all in compliance. MacArthur. As you can see, MacArthur has made significant gains across the board, and it continues to make gains, and they're under the testing coordinator of Ms. Linda Williams. Thompson K-8. They have made significant growth as well, and they are under Ms. Janika Davis is the testing coordinator, and again, she's amazing as all the other ones. Southfield A&T. Southfield A&T has made some gains as well, and Mr. Matthew Hervella is the testing coordinator. He's the full-time testing coordinator, and the one thing about Southfield A&T is it's the biggest population that we have. We have over 1,300 students that we have to make sure that we are testing, and so they have made gains, and we plan on making more. I just met with the leadership team today, and we have a plan in place to make even more gains for next year. University Middle. So they split up University from University Middle to University High. And so this is University Middle under the leadership of Principal Bogans and AP Patterson, and their testing coordinator is Ms. Lori Lewis. And as you can see, they have also made significant gains across the board, especially in their growth index. And last but not least, University High. And again, they have made significant gains across the board. And so I'm just truly pleased, not only with the staff, but my instructional team. My instructional team goes out with me, and we work with all the building leaders to make sure that there's a plan, we bridging the gap, and we're making sure that the goals that we set are attainable by each school. And so I'm just thankful, and we are looking forward to making even more gains next year. What questions do you have for me?
This is wonderful. I'm wondering, the proficiency index, the average across the state, were you able to get any of the?
I don't have the
those numbers?
average
No?
across the state. I don't have the target. And so there's a target that they have. And the target for ELA is 56.31%, and for math is 43.94%. And so they didn't give us the average of where everyone lies across the state, but that's how they judge us based on the targets.
Can you say those again? ELA is?
56.31%, and math is 43.94.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? This is good news. Thank you, as usual, and thank you for being straight to the point this evening. And congratulations to all of these schools for the growth. It's very admirable. It's not easy.
It's not. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And coming out of the pandemic, they have done a tremendous job in getting our students back on track, which is why the team is referred to as gainers
Yes.
at the county level, and other districts are working to emulate what is happening here in Southfield Public Schools. So despite what you hear, this team and all of the building level teams are doing tremendous work with our young scholars. So we're quite proud of the work that's happening there. Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Summer.
you.
All right. Next, we will have a very, very brief, even brief, more brief than summer, will be Miss Angela Smith. She may even start speaking before she gets to the podium. No, it will be very brief.
Promise. Good evening, everyone. So today, I am going to briefly speak about the staffing in the ISSN department, which is the Intensive Student Support Network. As you all know, staffing has been a difficult topic, situation within the district, within the county, within the state, within the country. So
You got it, Ms. Foster? There we go.
thank you. Since the start of the 23-24 school year, we had 13 vacancies within the department. And those included ancillary staff, social workers, and speech pathologists. Since we last met, we had a new social worker start at Levy. We are currently filled with our social work positions. They are all filled. We have made 5 recommendations we've interviewed and made 5 recommendations for teachers through HR to hire. As of today, 3 of those candidates accepted and 1 is in negotiations. As of today, we currently have 3 teaching positions vacant and 2 speech pathologist positions vacant. So from 13 to 5.
Yeah, awesome.
That doesn't mean that we don't still have work to do. So my future plans, our future plans, we're currently working with grants and HR on hiring bonuses so that we can stay competitive with our neighboring districts, because currently we're not in the same ballpark. Continuing to build relationships with university programs to support teaching and learning to prospective graduates and potentially new staff members. To create a marketing and recruitment plan to address our paraprofessional shortage within the district. The dish.
Are you
oh, I'm
going
sorry.
next? No, yes, this is the one. Thank you.
Oh, okay. The district has been very successful with recruiting staff members to participate in alternative tracks to become certified teachers. And I've listed a few of those tracks, and so at your leisure, you'll be able to click on those links and get a little bit more information. But due to the shortage across the country, MDE, Michigan Department of Education, as well as I'm sure other state Department of Educations have implemented a number of alternative options for those persons interested in becoming certified teachers. Or pursuing additional endorsements. So meaning if they already have a endorsement or they already have a certificate in teaching and they want to get an additional endorsement to be a special education teacher. And some of those are My Talent Together, which is a cohort and it's a grant-funded program. The MDE Special Education Grant, which is a grant that MDE works collaboratively with the school district, and they provide $800 per credit hour for up to 18 credit hours, and the money is distributed through the district and not to the individual. And then the Michigan Grow Your Own, which is an application process that the district goes through and uses that money that the government provides to grow their own, meaning staff members within the district who are not teachers but want to become certified teachers. And then the alternative route to certificates and endorsements, which is ultimately the teaching certification, interim teaching certification program. So any person who currently holds a undergraduate degree in any path, not necessarily education, has the ability to enroll in one of those programs. In conjunction with that program, the district provides a mentor. The person is currently enrolled in class, so it's kind of a practicum because you're getting that on-the-job experience. You're also, in conjunction with those classes, you have a mentor within the district, and you have the opportunity to participate in district professional development as well as professional development offered by the county level. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions? And I think the staffing conversation will continue, right? I do want to thank every building leader for responding to my email. I did get responses from every building leader just asking them about their staffing concerns, wish lists, things of that nature. And so that is a topic that we will go over during our retreat as well. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
How we holding up? We can go to the director's report.
All right. Next, we will have the Bussey Director Report, Dr. Connie Thompson.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm presenting my Bussey's Director Report for November 2023. I've not used this before, this is the wrong one. Oh, let me go back. So the first thing I'll start with is with enrollment. So currently, for the early Head Start, for the month of November, we had 11 slots filled and 5 vacant. For Head Start, we had 84 slots filled and 44 vacant. And then for the Great Start Readiness Program, we had 30 slots filled and 50 vacant. And we are currently processing enrollments. We have added kids right now for our Early Head Start program. For the baby program, we currently have the 8 kids in the classroom. So we are processing and adding more kids. So for month of November, for the drops, we had 5 in Early Head Start, 0 in Head Start, and 0 in the Great Start Readiness Program. For the average daily attendance, we had 81% average daily attendance. Our target is 85%, but due to the cold and flu season, that has impacted our daily attendance, and that's for our parents and our babies as well. But we are tracking, we make sure to call parents and to see what's wrong, and if there's something that we need to report to the state, we do ask about those things. For our child adult care food program, the CACFP program, we served 4,721 meals to children and to adults. For our compliance piece, we had our dental hygienist out again, and we had 12 students served in November, and then the mobile dentist returned to Bussey on December 7th, 2023, to see more kids. For the children who have individualized education programs with IEPs, we have 3 with IEPs, 3 referrals. The compliance is 8 for Head Start, and then 1 for Early Head Start. And for the education piece, we have a building-wide professional development, and I mentioned this before, scheduled for this Friday. Oakland Schools is coming out, and we're going to do the Core Advantage. That's part of the high school curriculum. So it's going to be a full-day training for our staff. The Core Advantage data collection period, we finished the first period, so we do have our benchmark data, and we did develop goals with the early childhood specialists from Oakland Schools. So we've already entered period 2, where we'll be collecting data, the anecdotal notes, and entering that into core. And that second period is from 11/20/2023 to March 3rd, 2024. And so we'll be able to compare the data from period 1 to period 2 at that time. Staff has been, they have been engaged in parent-teacher conferences with our families and have shared some of that core data. And as I've mentioned before, GSRP and Head Start GSRP classrooms receive additional support from Oakland Schools Early Child Care Specialist. For family engagement, for the Thanksgiving holiday, we had 14 Thanksgiving baskets that were loaded up and presented to our families, and they were provided by an area church. For the communications piece, for the Office of Head Start Monitoring Review, we had a Focus Area 2 monitoring visit. From that visit, we developed a corrective action plan. On November 22nd, during the break, right before Thanksgiving, we did get notification that all non-compliances were corrected and the review was closed with no additional findings. So we were quite happy about that. And then I included in the board packet Biden-Harris administration. It's just communication from the Office of Head Start. It's the updated resource to support the inclusion of children with disabilities in early childhood programs. That was just for your information. And then for staffing, we had one resignation, and that was a floater sub who worked 2 days a week. And then we had one separation from employment. Current vacancies are 3 teachers and then 6 CDA assistant teachers. So we continue to work with Elite and then SubHub. Oakland Schools has now, I went to a director's meeting on Friday, and they have started supplying applicants as well. So they sent me one person. They're doing it countywide, and they're kind of farming out the applicants. So I did reach out to the person. Bussey currently has 9 of the 13 classrooms open. As before, 2 early Head Start, 3 Head Start, 3 Head Start GSRP, and 1 GSRP. We did interviews. We recommended hires to HR for our education manager, and this was one of the positions that was recommended by the program specialist from the Office of Head Start and the grantee specialist. And then we offered employment to our URSIA manager as well to join Southfield Public Schools. And then for upcoming events, we have our Bussey Winter Showcase, and we've already started that. We had one presentation on Monday, and then today, Tuesday, the Frog and the Tiger Room went, and so they did a Bring a Story to Life. They did a song, and we had lots of parents in attendance, so we got a lot of in-kind money today as well. So the parents really enjoyed it and coming to watch the students. We have 2 more performances. Wednesday, December 13th, so we'll have the Duck and the Chick Room, and then Thursday we'll have the Parrot Room. We have our Spirit Week coming up, December 18th through the 21st. So we have Hat Day, Storybook Character, Wacky Wednesday, and Pajama Day. And then on the 22nd of December, we have our staff wellness event at Dave & Buster's, and we have a lot planned for that day. We're going to have giveaways and food and things like that. So we're really going to try to celebrate our staff. And the last thing, finally, drum roll, our building beautification project that's scheduled for Saturday, December 30th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And that's going to allow us to get in-kind support. So we've invited staff, families, and high school scholars to participate in that event. We're looking forward to that. And that is all, short and sweet. Any questions?
Trustee Smith-Thomas.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. I'll kind of go backwards here. The building beautification project, for any high school scholars who participate, are they able to get community service hours?
So I've had this conversation with the superintendent. The answer is yes, but as we start to develop things out, I've taken some pointers from a couple of school districts and how they do community service, and I think that we'll be able to implement that to make it a little bit more standard for our scholars and provide them with a list of what's available, if not annually, at least biannually, right? Because there's things that we always know are going to happen in this city.
Right.
So the answer to, short answer, yes.
And then to add to what President Bland stated, we're also working with United Way on their website to keep a running list of opportunities that our students can use for community service hours, given that they're our district partner in our community school.
Perfect. Thank you. And then my other question, this might be a little complicated. The education manager, you mentioned that a recommendation for hire has been made. Has that been finalized?
Has it been finalized? Just about, but.
Just about?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's a recommendation that's coming from the Office of Head Start, and we've had lengthy conversation about the difference between an assistant director and this role. Being that this role was recommended by the Office of Head Start, how much of this role will support GSRP?
It'll be, so with the funding, it's 36%, but it'll be probably like a lot. So like a 50%. So they'll support GSRP, our blend classes, Head Start, Early Head Start. So supervising all of our students, providing coaching and support to them as well, and then providing the professional development piece as well. So all of the staff will have the opportunity. So with the education manager, that person will work with the early childhood specialist as well. But they will support all of the classes and all the programs.
The reason I asked that question is because it's been known that I would say it's been a trend that BUSC's focus has centered around Head Start, and Head Start is really important. However, we have GSRP for a reason. And so I just really want to make sure that the entire spectrum, is being supported, the full program, all of the early childhood needs of all the families and all the scholars, and not just one piece of it.
So as I mentioned before, a portion of the funding comes from GSRP and a portion comes from Head Start. So we're really trying to be intentional about that. So we're supporting all the programs with the education manager.
Okay, and compliance, are we compliant with the percentage of scholars with IEPs?
No, working on that.
How many more are needed for compliance?
5 more.
Board President, might I ask that we add this for the retreat so that we have a better understanding of what this plan is for meeting compliance?
Request heard.
Thank you. And my other question as it relates to our, the GSRP funds, because the wait list seems to continue to remain. How long will the county give us to use these funds before they decide to take them away and give those slots to other programs specific to GSRP?
So I know we may not, if we don't fill the slots, we may lose funding for this year. I'll have to ask about that with the early childhood specialist, Tammy Erickley, and we meet with her once a month, so I will ask about that.
Can we add this to the list?
Trustee Smith Thomas, we have a superintendent's meeting on Friday. I will inquire with the county.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
So I just have, I have one comment. Your presentation is aesthetically pleasing, so thank you for that. I always appreciate the effort put in because I look at them all day. My first question is regarding the implementation of a new curriculum. I'm assuming High Scope is a new curriculum?
No.
This is just new training? Okay, and is it because something has changed in the curriculum or because we've gotten new staff members?
New staff.
Okay.
And then, yeah. And just making sure that staff that are there as well are trained at all levels.
Okay. My last question is about your staff wellness day. So, I'm curious. I've had companies that provide a wellness day as well. And since is this the first off-site? Okay,
This is the first off-site.
okay. My only question is, was it derived due to, the request of your staff? Or is this from their feedback? Or was this derived at a central office level? Just trying to understand how we decided to have a wellness day at Dave & Buster's.
So we had the funds for Wellness Day in the Head Start funds. And so the management team met and discussed some ideas about Wellness Day, and then we took it to the staff. And so we talked about Dave & Buster's, we talked about Topgolf and something else, and we came up with Dave & Buster's.
Okay.
So it was definitely brought to the staff.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
that
thank you
was, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Trustees, are there any more questions regarding the director's report? Hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I have a question, and I certainly don't want to appear to be responding directly to any of the public comments. However, I'd like to better understand the working relationship between our director and the company the staffing company used. I'm a little familiar, as you all know, I once ran a early childhood program for a district in another county, and that had a similar structure. And so, as the director, there were certain roles and responsibilities, but there was a collaboration, so to speak, certainly a different company. So I just want to better understand that, and if we can possibly, I don't know if we can get more of that insight from our director. As, you know, although we're using the staffing company, we certainly want to make sure that the experience being had in Southfield Public Schools is one of delight. And if there's any decisions this board needs to make as it relates to those decisions. Thank you.
Action items. Consent agenda, approval of minutes for November 14th, November 20th, and November 30th. Trustees, is there a motion on the floor to open and approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Trustees, is there any discussion surrounding consent agenda approval of minutes? Hearing none. Board Secretary, when you're ready, please call for the vote.
Trustee Wirdeball.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee Bland.
Yes.
Trustee Belt.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion carried. Thank you. Dr. Green, before I move on, I see we have Report 6255, 56, 57. They are all, no, two of them are bond-related, and one is ESSER fund-related, but I believe that the same people are spearheading all of them.
Correct.
Can we group this presentation? I'm trying. Can we group the presentation together and address them
Yes, ma'am.
succinctly? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank
And
you.
all of these items are on for action because they have come before the board in the past.
Yeah, I vaguely remember. Trustees, I don't want to be negligent in assuming that everyone remembers Report 6255, the topics listed in 55, 56, and 57, but they were all presented to us as information items. Do you require a refresher, or is this something that we can open and approve? I just need at least two of y'all to talk to me. Okay. Okay. Board Secretary? No problem. As the trustees refresh their computers, I will help out a little bit. The Eisenhower Elementary and the Kennedy Learning Center playground equipment was brought to our attention. We've actually discussed this one multiple times, which is why I went to it first. As you all know, their KLC was needing some TLC. And so this has been up for discussion multiple times. We've actually seen the full layout of what will be provided. If you all remember that one, I see heads nodding. And then Eisenhower Elementary, we ran into some extra things. And I know it's within your wheelhouse that we approved a certain amount of money, but you always bring us
Right, so we
back to
always
the
bring some
table.
additional
Right.
items to you when it's ESSER dollars. We want to make the trustees aware, as well as our general community, how we're spending those ESSER dollars. As the auditors mentioned earlier, the plan is on our website, but we are able to use those grant dollars for a one-time purchase, so it won't be reoccurring and hit our general fund in the future. So we're excited to get some new equipment there because they have an Airbnb essentially without, you know,
Fun stuff.
the fun stuff,
Yep.
right. So we want to make sure that we get those items there. And with the long lead times, we really need to get moving on those items sooner rather than later. Board President, if I can just add to the other two real quickly, the French Associates Incorporated Amendment 1 was because we needed to add some additional services to their contract. So this has already gone before Clark Hill, our legal counsel, for review of these contracts and these additional services that they will be providing. And then last but definitely not least, the abatement report that we are required by law to make sure that we take care of for environmental purposes.
And if you all remember this asbestos abatement, ARC has been handling this for us for years. I had asked about the significant difference in cost. And one of the things that we realized was that because we have been using for them for years, we have this relational and this relationship that allows us to get, I won't call it a discount, but
A better
a
rate.
better rate. So that is that one.
So those are the three that represent construction this evening.
Everyone okay? Okay. Is there a motion on the floor? So there's a motion on the floor, and any support?
This is for 6255.
This is for 6255, 6256, and 6257, considering that we've already had all the information.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Trustees, is there any other discussion surrounding these three items? Hearing none, Board Secretary, when you're ready, please call for the vote.
Trustee Belk?
Yes.
Trustee Bland?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Trustee Ware Duval?
Yes.
Unanimous.
I'd like to state that was an alphabetical vote. I recognize that. Motion carried.
The next item, Board President, is something that has also come before the board several times, and we've discussed. It's also been taken before Policy Council, and this is the one that was recommended by the Head Start consultant from Region 5, as previously mentioned, for the educational manager.
Do we have?
This is actually just for the position, so we
approve.
talked about it, but this,
We approved this.
Ms. Foster didn't have it recorded as, she said it wasn't in your binder
I
for
think we
approval.
did ask to revisit.
Yeah, so
this
we never took
at
official
the
vote on
study
it.
session. I do not want to belabor this position any longer.
And we do have someone teed up for the position, so if granted your approval.
And I was gonna ask about that. Are we in a better space to get someone on deck?
Much better space. We
Okay.
already have someone identified after going through rounds of interviews.
Okay. Trustees, is there a motion on the floor to open and approve?
So moved.
Support.
It has been zealously move. Board, is there any other discussion surrounding this report? I see head shaking no. Board Secretary, it sounds like you're ready, so please call for the vote.
Myself, yes. Trustee Wirdafall.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee Bland.
Yes.
Trustee Bill.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion carried. Thank you all. And last but not least, Report 6260, Personnel Action Report. Trustees, I give you some time.
And Board President, just as a point of clarification, given that we canceled the one meeting
Yes.
and then came back with this meeting, you'll see it on two different forms, but it is
Understood.
under one report number.
I would like to add that with this personnel action report, we also had a lift to have somewhat of a tracker for traceability, and that has been provided as well. So thank you to the central administration staff for providing us with that. I appreciate it. Trustees, is there a motion on the floor to open and approve the talent management report?
So moved.
It's been properly moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Board Secretary, when you're ready, please call for the vote.
Yes.
Trustee Belk.
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Yes.
Trustee Wirdafall.
Yes.
Trustee Bland.
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Motion carried.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, yes. Information items, Report 6261, Video Surveillance, Section 97. As you all know, this is a duplicate, right? This was in your packets 2 weeks ago. So I'm gonna make this, well, I know that most of you have already read it, because I've been in contact with you about any questions or concerns. Dr. Green, if you would like to call, Ms. Allison Dewar to the podium.
Yes, hi, Miss Allison, come on up and join us. And Board President, if it is the pleasure of the board, given that this was already on, if we can make this actionable, we greatly appreciate it.
If it is the wish of the board, can we move this into an action item once the presentation has occurred?
Thank you.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Dr. Green, Ms. Foster, everyone. Just here to provide some information on upgrading entire building video surveillance systems at Southfield High School for Arts and Technology, the Lathrop campus, which includes MacArthur K-8 and University Middle High and Bernie K-8. The fiscal fund impact would be the Section 97 school safety grant in the amount of $575,300, or 507. It's past my bedtime.
It's late. It's okay.
Past my bedtime. $575,389. As recommended by Secure Environment Consultants during our safety audit.
Secure Education Consultants. It's okay.
Secure,
We
well,
support
no, they
each other.
changed their name to Secure Environment
Oh,
Consultants.
okay, great.
Messing with my brain. Yeah, they recently made the name change. I just saw that on LinkedIn. It was recommended that we take a look at video surveillance upgrades across the district. So when we do a walkthrough at a campus, facilities and operations are involved, building administration, SROs, and the security team. We approach the walkthroughs as if there's nothing in place to do it top to bottom. And the quotes that have been provided for all three projects include new cameras, installation, wiring, licenses, putting them into milestone, the demo of old cameras, which is something due to cost and budget we have not done in quite a while. This has, this is, the quotes provided are reciprocal pricing, meaning the costs have been competitively bid by one of the districts at Oakland School Services, which is Lapeer. And the work would be done by CTBS, who is the district's video surveillance contractor. They've done numerous work and numerous projects, including recently Eisenhower and Bussey.
Trustees, do we have any questions regarding this? Hearing none, and I just want to make the community aware that we normally will not ask specific questions regarding any of our security systems for obvious reasons. So I don't want anyone to think that we're being negligent and not asking questions. We just prefer to keep that close to vest. Any other discussion surrounding this?
Just for clarity, the the grant has to be spent by September, it says September 30th, I'm assuming 2024.
That is correct.
Can we make sure the date?
Year is on there.
Yes, please,
Absolutely.
so that, for compliance purposes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, trustee. Trustees, you heard the request of the superintendent. If you all wish to make this actionable this evening, is there a motion on the floor to make this an actionable item and to open and approve it?
I motion that we make actionable report 62, 61.
Support.
It's been properly, we need to open and approve it. Can you add that into your motion and then support it again?
We open and approve 62, 61.
And make it actionable, right?
Well, opening and approving is
okay.
actionable, correct?
Support.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and supported. Is there any other discussion surrounding this report? Hearing none, Board Secretary, when you're ready, please call for the vote.
Trustee Ware Duval,
Yes.
myself, yes. Trustee Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Bland,
Yes.
Trustee Belk,
Yes.
unanimous.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You may want to stay up for the next one because this is kind of a drum roll, something the trustees and the community have been asking for some time. And this is an upgrade to our website as well as the connectivity for communications. We have an expert here today. I mean, everyone is so excited. I almost feel like this is the culminating activity for the evening. We're so excited. So Ms. Cash, please take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Board
evening, Ms.
President,
Cash.
trustees, Dr. Green, Ms. Foster, the community, everyone in the audience. It's truly a pleasure to stand before you today, bringing you an exciting proposal from Final Sight that has potential to revolutionize and consolidate our communication strategies across both the district and individual school buildings. Allow me to commence by shedding light onto the imperative need for this transformative shift, beginning with our current website. A candid acknowledgement reveals its outdated appearance and dire need for a comprehensive design overhaul. Feedback consistently emphasizes its lack of accessibility, making it challenging for users to find pertinent information. The constraints of our current template hinder our capacity to showcase our achievements in a visual, compelling manner. Moreover, in comparison to our peer institutions and businesses, our online presence is notably behind in the curve. Given that the website serves as the initial touch point for our prospective families, this upgrade is not merely desirable but imperative. Now turning our attention to the challenges encountered with our existing mass notification system, School Messenger. Regrettably, it has proven to be unreliable and inadequate. The persistent dilemma of uncertain email and letter deliveries raises concerns about the effectiveness of our communication channels. The system's incongruity with our system, our student data system, MyStar, further compounds the issue. Fluctuating contact numbers and inconsistent data have led to confounding scenarios. Seeking resolution often involves navigating through difficult customer service interactions, adding an unwarranted layer of frustration. It is not merely a district-wide concern. Our building leaders have found it necessary to explore alternative communication platforms due to the inherent unreliability of School Messenger. Aligned with my overreaching objective of unifying communications across the district, I firmly believe that Final Sight is a comprehensive solution we have been diligently seeking. It is my pleasure to introduce and thank Ms. Mary Ellen from Final Sight. She is here tonight. She is a Michigan representative for Final Sight, and she also was served as the communications director at Clarkston previously. So she gives a wealth of knowledge in the communications education space as well as in Final Sight. Now I will delve into some key features from the platform and the proposal that caught my attention. Should we reach a mutual agreement and sign the contract by the 31st, Final Sight has offered to elevate our web presence to a custom site. This entails a personalized design crafted in collaboration with their skilled designers, ensuring our individuality and meeting our specific needs and aspirations. Notably, this strategic timeline aligns seamlessly with the conclusion of our current contract with Foxbright in June 2024, with the goal of a grand reveal of a new website early June. Now turning our attention to the mass notification solution, Messages XR. They also boost a mobile app designed for our administrators. This feature is particularly valuable, affording the flexibility to disseminate messages anytime, anywhere directly from our mobile devices. This mobile functionality is a game changer for administrators who are not tethered to their desks, providing a nimble solution for urgent communications. Furthermore, an upcoming AI feature, which I talk about this all the time whenever we get into our meetings. It's my favorite part of the whole platform is the AI feature, which is slated for release in January, promises to significantly enhance productivity. Drawing inspirations from technologies like ChatGPT, this feature allows for swift composition of messages. For instance, I can input a message, which this is an example. I can input a message such as snow day on Friday, all after school activities are canceled. And AI would generate a fully formatted email ready for my review. The added benefit lies in its ability to condense the message for a concise text message, and it even translates into a voice message, introducing a remarkable level of efficiency into our communication workflows. Additionally, the proposal includes the provision of a mobile app for our families, presenting a dynamic channel for us to showcase our successes and control the narrative of what we share. What distinguishes Final Sight is the seamless integration between these platforms, the website, mobile app, mass notifications, and our social media, allowing for dissemination of messages across all channels at once. I find it noteworthy to highlight Final Sight's existing collaborations with various Michigan school districts, including the likes of Detroit Public Schools and Ann Arbor Public Schools. Moreover, their robust partnerships extend to Oakland County districts such as Oakland Schools, West Bloomfield, Troy, Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, Farmington, Clarkston, and Novi. While there is so much more I could talk about Final Sight, I know that we are all trying to leave. So I will end there because it's just a high-level overview, and I would like to go in deeper if you do have questions for me.
I'm going to give you a comment. Over the summer, I started doing some reconnaissance. I probably went on 15 different school websites, picked my top 3. Called Dr. Green and said, listen, they're just outshining us. The ease, the flow. I came to you with some of them, and you listened. I appreciate it. And I love the fact that many of those schools are listed and that Final Sight has done them. So I do want the community to know that there has been research put behind this. I play with the ease of opening things, printing them, downloading them from the mobile site. I have done it all just to see what's fluid. right? Because as parents, we're in the car, we get a ping, we're trying to read it at the stoplight before we take off, right? And because a lot of things are time sensitive. And so we know our current website did not give us that ability. I really appreciate the time and the dedication that has gone into this, and I'm super excited for June to come. I heard the school messenger piece. You all know I'm not afraid to get up here and apologize. So it came to, a lift was raised by another trustee that families did not receive the communication about the rally on Saturday. I did not. I called Dr. Green and I'm like, we're talking about poor participation. I didn't receive an email to say that this was happening. We learned that because of our, I'll be nice and say that outdated system, it did not go out but to 100 of the roughly 5,000 families that we have. So that's not even 10% if you're doing the math. It's really saddening because our stadium should have been full. So I do apologize to the community, but we are working to get better. I wish I would have known ahead of time, but we do apologize. We would have wanted all of you there. So as you can hear, we are making strides to do better. So thank you so much for this. Trustees, I know that she doesn't have all the pertinent info that I know some of us want to ask, but do you have any other questions for Ms. Cash?
Through the chair.
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
had 2 questions. You mentioned the 31st. So is there a deadline or is there an incentive to have this completed by the 31st of this month so that we can launch in June?
So, Messages XR, which is the mass notification, that would launch in January, and then the website would launch in June. And so there are incentives of signing and agreeing upon this contract by December 31st.
Okay, then I have one more question. Is there any character limitations? And what I mean, because we're using multiple systems, will we get to a place, because we send out a lot of communications, where it'll start costing per communication if we hit a ceiling?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have 2 questions. Does this system allow for an intranet that works along with the internet so that the internal, okay. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And then also the school pages.
Yes.
And how are we going to clean that up? Is there a template?
Standard template.
So we talked about that, and you also heard the lift that if we sign with the incentive, we get a customized site. So we will be able to really work with all of our building level leaders to make sure that they're custom to their building, but standard across the district to ensure that the same type of information is on every school's homepage.
I invite you guys to take a look at Birmingham Public Schools. They are a custom site from Final Site. I love their site.
I do too.
Yes, and it's they're great, and they're a custom site, so we're not gonna get the same thing. No one's gonna get the same thing that we have, but it's just a great example.
The other thing, Board President, if I may lift, we often talk about the cost, and this is a general fund expenditure, and it will be recurrent. But when I think about the number of students we lose because the families are interfacing with our current antiquated site, it definitely makes up for the cost. It pays for itself, absolutely.
It's like 4 kids.
One question, I understand that you might not have all the answers, Ms. Cash, but will we have an opportunity to have templates? For instance, if we're doing a community use application, will we be able to put in that type of information at a later date? You can.
The expert here.
Yes.
Actually,
Before we, I'm gonna hold on that one moment, because I think that's more detail oriented. My bigger ask is, because this is very impactful to this community and to this district, is that the rollout of this, right? How to use the website for our building leaders, for this board, what does that look like? That's my concern. I don't need to know what it looks like now. I'm just stating it on the record that the implementation for this and the execution has to be well thought out. I don't think we can afford, right, to do anything less than stellar when it comes to how we communicate. It's a love language for some people. So we have to be extremely dedicated to this. I trust you with it. I'm just letting the district know that this has been a pain point for us. I would challenge everyone to say it's been a risk to the fidelity of the growth of the district. We're gonna do this, let's do it right. And that would be my ask. So I know we want to find out about templates, and I apologize. I just wanted to ensure that before we get to spending the money, we have a plan to how we're going to execute, because this is huge.
Definitely.
And I yield to the expert.
Yes, so you will, by the way, have a stellar website that is reflective of the stellar district that you guys have put on display here tonight. So many good things happening here. You will have opportunities to engage with the community through fillable forms that are embedded on the page, for feedback to be submitted through multiple channels. Did that answer your question?
We are all excited, if you can't tell.
Yes, I was about to say.
Board Treasurer, did you have a question?
Do we need to make it actionable?
I was just about to say, if it is the wish of the board, I would love to move this through tonight. Is there a motion on the floor to make report 6262? Is that correct? 6262? Okay, is there a motion on the floor to make report 6262 an actionable item and open and approve it?
So moved.
It's been properly moved and duly supported. Any other questions or discussion for the panel that we have up here? Hearing none. Board Secretary, when you're ready, please call for this wonderful vote.
All in favor? No.
Yes. Look, aye.
Trustee Wirdball?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Bland?
Yes.
Trustee Bell? Yes. Unanimous.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I just wanted to commend your awesome team. They have worked hard on this, so.
I'm glad.
We are going to wow your community with this new website.
Thank you all so much. Good job.
Thank you.
So we have the financial report and monthly bill disbursement. Board Treasurer, did you have anything high level that you wanted us to pay attention to with either one of these?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Trustees, they are in your packet for review. Public participation. If you wish to address the board regarding a school-related issue that has not yet been resolved by school administration, please submit a comment card immediately. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. As a matter of fairness, speakers with complaints against individuals are asked not to mention any persons by name. Complaints concerning employees pursuant to Board Policy 9130 should be brought to the attention of school principals or other administrators before coming to the Board of Education. Your cooperation is appreciated. Kayla Michaud, did I say that correctly? Okay. Michaud. Will you please state your address for the record?
My house address? 9532 West Pickwick.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kayla Mishaw. I am a teacher at Bussey Center. I'm also a student at the University of Michigan and a former
Go
student
Blue.
and a former student of the Southfield Public Schools.
Oh, okay.
I am just here to say that I love my job. I know that as a teacher, thank you. As a teacher with young children, a lot of times we have a lot going on and it can be slightly overwhelming, but what I can say is that in my job, through proper protocol, following the chain of command, there has not been a problem I have not been able to solve. There has not been a child I have not been able to help. I understand that everybody's experience is different, but I think it's very important that we talk about the positive things when we also talk about the negative things, because sometimes it can cause us to drown when we need to be swimming. And when you work with young children, you can't be drowning. You have to be there, you have to be present, you have to be attentive, and you have to give them your all every day. I think it's also important to mention that when we do have issues, I had an issue the other day. We got the calendar, and I was very disappointed to learn that I was working during the break. However, I went to Dr. Thompson, and I let her know, hey, I'm really concerned about some of the stuff in this calendar. She immediately said, oh, I understand, and I understand that that could be an issue with the rest of the staff. I'm going to call a staff meeting today to clarify for you all. That day, we had a staff meeting, so she could clarify for us all. She said, I'll be sending a follow-up email. We got that follow-up email as well. So I think it's very important that we're transparent about everything that goes on at Bussy. Not just the things that grind our gears, but the positive things. We have teachers at Bussy working to give support. We are having our Dave and Buster's. I'm really excited for that. We also have secret gift giving. We have secret gift giving going on. We have a potluck plan, things that teachers have brought to administration that they have allowed us to execute and have helped and support us execute. So I really appreciate that. I just want to say it's not all bad, guys. I love my job. I love the children. I feel supported. I can't speak for all the staff. I can speak for Miss Latasha Posey. I can speak for Miss Amanda Collins. I can speak for Mr. Randall Mishaw. I can speak for myself when I say that I love coming to work. It won't always be sunshine and roses. We work with young kids. Sometimes we have multiple kids who are overwhelmed. It's our job to balance that out. It's our job to look at the positive. It's our job to focus on the things we want our children to focus on. I don't want my children to dwell on what they don't have. I want them to be encouraged in what they do have. And I think that's very important because that's what I was given at Southfield Public Schools. I was encouraged to be my best. I was encouraged to work on my strengths. I was encouraged to shine my light into the world. And I just really hope that that's what we're giving our children and that our staff feel that they are important and that they are valued like I feel that I am important and I am valued. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming these two are related. Randall? Oh, okay, got it. Does he want to come in or, because I don't want to just, okay. Okay, I'm going to move to the next person and then if he wants to speak next, we can do that. Jacqueline Hearns. Would you please state your address for the record?
2200 Weston 11 Mile Drive.
Thank you.
And I'm Jacqueline Hearns. Hello to everyone. I will first say that I absolutely adore this board. Thank you guys so much. I have written many, many emails, and you guys have been so prompt, and you have responded, so thank you so much. It definitely does make me feel valued. When I came in here today, I will say I came in here angry. I wanted to come in, I wanted to speak, and I was angry because of what has happened in my situation. You guys know, but I'll kind of briefly state it. I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. Both of them went to Bussy. I thought I was done, and surprise, here comes COVID, and I got another baby. Yay. So, with that other baby that I had, of course, my first response was to bring my child to Bussy because I had an excellent experience with my first one and with my second. So I said, let's bring the child to Bussy. In April, I came up to Bussy. We went to an event fair. Everything was great. In August, I turned in an application. Everything seemed like it was good. We did a dental exposure. Everything was great. Somehow, in all of the application that I turned in, something got lost. September, I turned in more. Something still got lost. October, I turned in more, and I can't quite understand why I'm still turning in documents because I turned it in August, but something still got lost. In November, guess what? Something got lost again. So now here comes November, and they say, well, you need some check stubs, and you need a birth certificate, and I don't understand why because I turned this in August. But here we go, November, I turn in the birth certificate, and now all of a sudden, I don't qualify because of my income. Don't quite understand how a birth certificate stops you from qualifying because of an income, because that makes absolutely no sense at all. But nonetheless, we are here, and now I don't qualify, and my baby isn't here. And then I hear that, well, we're waiting, and she's on a waiting list. don't quite understand how she's on a waiting list because I turned this information in August, but we're here in September and December, and now we're on a waiting list. And now I hear today that, okay, we've got places that's open. Why is my baby on a waiting list? And we have spots that's available. But then I come to hear that there were so many people who were working there, and they're not too happy. So I can't quite understand why I would expect my situation to be addressed if the people who work there, their situation isn't addressed. So now I don't quite know how I feel. I don't quite know if I even want my baby to be here, because if they're not happy, how can they exude happiness to my child? If they don't want to be there, how can they expect my child to want to be there? So I don't quite know how I feel, and even if I want my baby to be at this school that I've worked so hard to put my baby there, to send emails, to send phone calls, to send text messages, I don't know how I feel right now. And as a parent, that's not good, because we are supposed to want our child to go to this school to prepare for college. So how can I expect my baby to be ready for college if I don't even know how I feel and she hasn't been in school in 4 months?
I do recall you, and thank you for coming this evening to speak with us. You're welcome. Randall, you with the baby, or you coming in? Oh, okay.
He locked outside with the baby? Oh, he was in the car with the baby.
Okay.
Standing in the cold.
Good evening. Yeah, come on up. State your name and your address for the record when you get up there for me, please.
Right. Hello, my name is Randall Mishaw.
Good
My
evening.
my home address,
Yes.
9532 West Pickwick Circle.
Thank you.
Taylor, Michigan. Thank you very much. I just want to take some time to, as I would like to be appreciated, to show some appreciation to the administration at Bussey. I've been at Bussey for about 3 years, and well, I'm reaching that third year. And if it wasn't for the group of administrators that we have here now, I wouldn't be a day away from having my CDA verification, probably going to get it done, and be that close to accomplishing something that is very important to me. Also, this same group of administrators, especially Dr. Thompson, has pushed me to be a part of the School Success and Readiness for Young African American Boys Community of Practice, and that has changed my life greatly. It has changed the way I view black boys. It has changed the way I view myself as a black man, as a person, as a dad, as a teacher. So without this group of people that I have around me now, I wouldn't be as inspired, as motivated to continue to push, to try to be a better version of myself for the people who look at me to be the version that I am. Thank you very much for your time.
For the good of the order. Trustees, anyone have anything for the good of the order? I have one thing, and I'll leave everyone with this. As we sit here, our job is mainly regarding safety and being fiscally responsible, but we also have a responsibility, and we're held accountable by the community at large. I think we all take that very seriously. I can speak for two of us. We call ourselves lifers, right? Been here over 40 years. This is home. The things that we say, we're not saying just to say them. This is always actionable. And the accountability and the example comes from the top down. So I appreciate everyone that takes the time to come here. Our meetings are not short. I know that those who do come are passionate about what they're saying, as are we, because as many of you know, oftentimes this is a thankless job, and it does not end here. It follows us to Kroger, Meijer, the freeway, and everywhere else. When we drop our kids off at school, we're not just parents, we are board members. So as we are dedicating our time and our efforts to this, just know we take it all seriously and nothing goes unheard. So we appreciate you all taking your time out. Again, we apologize that the message did not get out to the whole community about Saturday. But as many people said Saturday, we're gonna do it again, So you guys have another chance to come out and party with us next year. With that being said, if anyone else has anything for the good of the order, we have a ton of holiday programs. Please come out and support. I know we just talked about the website, but don't let that discourage y'all from looking at the calendar. It is functional, so you can see some of the musical and artistic presentations that we have to offer this holiday season. And with that being said, Dr. Green?
Yes, Board President, for those that unfortunately missed celebrating our Warriors last weekend, we do have the football banquet this upcoming Sunday. And there are still some tickets available. So if someone is interested in coming out to celebrate our Warriors, there is a cost, I believe it's $30 per ticket. It is going to be hosted at. $40 per ticket. It is hosted at the Pavilion. One of our very own alums, Smokey G's, will be catering that event.
Southfield,
And
Lathrop alum.
Okay, very good. Very tasty. That will be at 6 p.m. on Sunday evening. And we do have some very special guests joining us to recognize our students that evening. So if you unfortunately missed last weekend, we will have another opportunity to celebrate them this upcoming week. So please look for that social media post, because I can't guarantee it'll get out through Messenger.
And Dr. Green, if anyone wants to purchase a ticket, where would they go to do so?
So Ms. Cash is going to put that on social media, because
Okay.
I can't guarantee it'll get out through Messenger.
Okay.
But we will make sure that we put that out, and if anyone needs to email me directly.
And she
we
said
will
it's on the
make-
website.
It is on the website. It will be on the website. Okay, very good. So they can contact Ms. Cash, they can contact me, they can contact Coach Marshall. We will make sure that they get connected with the right people for that.
Perfect. Future meetings, Saturday, December 16th. Oh, I'm sorry. I kept saying, did anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Y'all didn't say, come on, y'all.
The IB projects, particularly at Thompson, if we could know in advance when they're getting started and perhaps have a presentation or an ask. I recall going to their culminating event in the spring this last school year, and just hearing about all their projects, and I'm like, oh, well, you all should have come to the board and asked, for input or for, assistance or whatever it is. So if that could just be taken back to the team, to make us aware of it. They're doing different drives, just different things that they might need our support on. So I would like to have a advance notice of that. And then also just want to encourage all of our scholars as they're doing their mid-year assessments right now with iReady. Oh, it's not until January.
Come on, dates.
Okay.
Roll them out.
Okay, that's good.
January 16th.
That's good.
January 16th, parents, make them go to bed the night before.
But Board President,
Yes, ma'am.
it's important to note that because we have a later dismissal date for our holiday break, that there will be 2 weeks where our children will be home, our scholars will be home, and really, they don't come back until January 8th. That's a very long time. So if families want to know what they can do with their scholars, they have access to their educational pathways in iReady.
Yes.
And they should really be going on and practicing those skills in preparation for their return back to the classroom, and also for their mid-semester assessment.
Absolutely.
Can we get a or something sent out? To do what?
That's so interesting how different districts do it. Some that's a tricky one. Do it before the break or after the break. But good point, Dr. Green. That's where I was going with that. Thank you.
Got it. Trustees, is there anything else for the good of the order? Any deacon fingers up? I'm coining that term, deacon finger. Anything else? Hearing none. Future meetings, Saturday, December 16th, board retreat at 9 a.m. Winter recess, December 25th through January 5th, but students do not come back until January 8th. Monday, January 8th, is our organizational meeting at 6 p.m., and then the next day, we have our regular meeting at 7 p.m. This meeting is now, yes, I hear you, Dr. Green.
Yes, our amazing executive director, who said her index scores didn't go up by happenstance, said our students will have access to all of their platforms over the break. So not only iReady, they can log on to everything, and that she will take it upon herself to send out a reminder. So thank
Wonderful.
you for that, Ms.
Thank you,
Caldwell.
Executive Director. This meeting is now adjourned at 9:58. I beat the 10 o'clock, everyone, so y'all can't.